Speak, Mendeloid. Speak, Mendelian. Speak, 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 speak. Stop, unmute your fucking mic and speak. Okay. What do you want to debate? Perfect. Who are you on Twitter?
My name's Fluri. Carl Fluri.
Okay, the most annoying fuck on Twitter. Let's continue. So, you want to defend the debunked fake science of genetics, right?
Well, it's not debunked in any way.
Oh, okay, it's not debunked. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, so I mean, you're obviously like a fucking Lysenkoist, right? So
I'm actually, I believe in real science. Yeah.
Like, explain to me why no one uses his theories right now.
No one uses Lysenko's theories right now.
No one uses Lysenko's theories.
Yeah, because the biological scientific establishment, which was based in London, headquartered in London, inherited by the Americans, created a global scientific consensus that was hostile to any fucking challenging and experimental theories. Do you mean to say... Hold on. No. We're actually going to go down this fucking rabbit hole. Okay. For hundreds and hundreds of years, it was accepted that the sun revolves around the earth. So many misguided views have been accepted by mainstream intellectual establishments throughout history. Are you actually making the argument right now that because Lysenko has not been adopted by these dumb fuck idiot scientists, that means it's wrong or it's somehow incriminating upon him?
Lysenko based most of his ideas on the ideas of Lamarckism, which was already
it did not.
100 years by the time he came.
No, it wasn't. Lamarckism was, first of all, never fully debunked. It just fell more out of favor in comparison to Darwin's theories because the ideologists of the scientific establishment... Shut the fuck up. Shut your fucking mouth. The ideologists of the Anglo-American establishment ran wild with Darwin's theories, social Darwinism and all this race bullshit, because they got fucking excited about the metaphysical implications of Darwin, completely distorting any kernel of real scientific value. So yes, Lamarckism only fell out of favor because of ideology. But even because, though it fell out of favor, that doesn't mean it was ever fucking debunked. You seem to have a view that shut the fuck up. You seem to have a view that these biologists know more than they actually fucking do. In reality, biologists don't know shit.
University myself.
Oh, you're in the university?
No, I studied it myself, so it's...
Oh, you studied Lysenko, right? You studied Lysenko? Okay, you studied Lysenko?
No, nobody studies Lysenko.
Nobody does. So you don't know shit about Lysenko? Yeah,
actually, because I've done some historic research myself.
Oh, you've done research yourself. Okay, so what do you know about Lysenko?
You don't learn about Lysenko in school, but because his ideas were never adopted because they're pretty much useless. Right?
How do you know? No, shut the fuck up. I'm gonna stop you there. Shut the fuck up. 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 Shut the fuck up.
And I can point to...
How do you know they were useless? How do you know they're useless?
Because we have no scientific advancements to point to from his ideology.
How do you know?
Because there's nothing to show for it.
Really? Because Soviet grain yields in the time that Lysenko was in charge of that appear to show an increase of grain yields.
The Soviets predating Lysenko and the Soviets
after Lysenko, an increase in crop yields after the adoption of Lysenko's methods.
His ideas were shit, okay?
Okay, how do you know that his ideas were shit? What's your argument?
He has absolutely nothing to show for it.
So, look, I need to basically run... Shut the fuck up! Shut your fucking mouth! You run your fucking mouth! You run your fucking mouth! Shut the fuck up! You are saying... You don't understand basic logic here. Even if it is true that Lysenko's ideas have to this day been completely unproven, which can't be even said, if that was your argument, that's very different from saying his ideas are shit and are wrong. If they're unproven, there's still a possibility that they could be proven.
They could be proven one day. There's no evidence that his ideas hold any water right now.
And how do you know that?
Because there's nothing to show for it. There's no evidence.
Okay, so you're saying because no one is reproducing Lysenko's experiments or trying to with any good faith, that means there's no merit to them.
Even his own experiments.
Okay, I don't mean to logic word this, but are you aware of the appeal to the authority fallacy because that's all you're fucking doing right now. The people in charge aren't doing it, so it's all wrong.
It's not authority. It's actual like.
I personally, listen. I don't make my money. I don't make my money. Hey. I don't.
Then it's kind of debunked, right?
Okay. How is it debunked? Go ahead.
When no one else can reproduce your results, then your ideas are debunked.
Okay, you again don't understand basic logic, and I'm so sorry to fucking humiliate your brain in front of your mother right now, telling you this. If you do not make an effort to reproduce someone's fucking work, that does not mean it cannot be reproduced. You don't know if it can or cannot be reproduced until you try to.
Because it starved millions of people.
Okay, when did it starve millions of people?
Is it what, the 40s?
Okay, when?
Was it 46, 47? Something?
Okay, do you know? Okay. So what was significant about the year 46, 47? Do you know?
What do you mean?
And is there any context you're not disclosing to us about the year 1946 and 1947?
There's a lot going on in those years.
Is there any fucking context for why there could be a famine in 1946 or 47 that you're not talking about right now?
Rain crops with frozen water.
Oh, really? How about the most devastating war in the history of Russia's existence, which killed 30 million people? Does that not matter? Which decimated Soviet infrastructure to the fucking Stone Age. How about the fucking war, which decimated the Soviet economy and infrastructure to the fucking Stone Age? Have you ever considered that's maybe a factor?
You understand that the Soviets themselves, like in the 50s, said that, Lysenko's idea failed to meet their economic goals.
No, they didn't. No, they did not. Lysenko's grain yields were fine. Khrushchev decided to adopt the American version of agriculture because of his general... Shut the fuck up. I'll explain the entire historiographical and sociological reasons for the... Shut your fucking mouth! Shut your fucking mouth! Shut your fucking mouth! Shut your fucking mouth!
If it wasn't
shut your fucking mouth. You sound like a gobbling chicken right now. I fucking can't stand your fucking gobbling chicken voice.
Like a gorilla,
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I'm muting you if you don't shut the fuck up. First of all, the reason is simple. Khrushchev and his friends were part of the same stratum as the Soviet scientific establishment who Lysenko humiliated because he was the barefooted peasant that completely humiliated these fucking scientists. Shut the fuck! You know what? He's getting muted. He doesn't know how to shut his fucking mouth. He doesn't know whose fucking Discord he's in, so he's fucking muted. There you go. The dumbass is muted, and we can finally explore the real sociological and historiographical reasons for the rejection of Lysenko. Khrushchev represented the same social milieu that was absolutely humiliated by the Stalin Revolution, which propped up the Russian peasant and the average Russian person, the subject of Russian civilization, over the westernized elites to whom Khrushchev was loyal to and was a part of. So after Stalin died, and when Khrushchev conspired with his friends to take power, Lysenko was rejected in part and parcel with the overall sociological change implied by the denunciation of Stalin. All of the old people, after the 30s, to be clear, not the 20s who were purged, all of the people from the 30s became rehabilitated, and the same people who had power across literature, art, science, they all became rehabilitated under Khrushchev. It had absolutely nothing to do with the inferiority or superiority of Lysenko's methods. It had everything to do with the sociological implications of the rejection of Stalin. Okay? Finally, we can see in practice Khrushchev's rejection of Lysenko through his adoption of American-style, true scientific agriculture. And this took the form of Khrushchev's Virgin Lands campaign, where he wanted to emulate large-scale American agriculture as opposed to the proto-ecological orientation Lysenko was starting to establish with a great plan for the transformation of nature. Even scientists today are admitting that this is a predecessor to ecological agriculture, right? Because it's a more dialectical view about the relationship between agriculture and nature, which accounts for being able to So Khrushchev adopted the fucking brain-dead American standard big agriculture, and it was a fucking catastrophe. And the only reason there wasn't a fucking famine in the Soviet Union as a result of Khrushchev's reckless worship of corn and American agriculture was because the Soviets pathetically had to start importing grain from its fucking satellite countries and its allies. The Soviets imported grain. The Soviet Union, which used to produce surpluses of grain. The whole point of collectivization was producing surpluses of grain for industry. So up until Khrushchev, the Soviet Union was producing a surplus of grain. So for you to fucking say that it was rejected because it was wrong is fucking brain dead. Now I'm going to unmute him.
Yep. You done?
Go ahead. Respond.
So, I mean, the reason largely that under Khrushchev they had to import grain was that they boost meat and milk supplies, and they had to feed the cattle.
Okay, so what was the result of the virgin? So was Khrushchev's agricultural policy successful or not successful compared to before?
No famine after.
What?
So success, right?
Yes or no? Were they successful or not successful?
People didn't starve to death.
No, they didn't, because they imported grain because the Soviet Union for the first time had an international network of friends that they could trade with to import grain from.
Yeah, that's great.
The Soviet Union had enough of an industrial surplus to buy grain, but otherwise they would have starved.
Go through pretty regular.
They would have starved if it was not for the excess of wealth that was created under Stalin through industrialization.
You know, famines used to be fairly regular. They became far less regular. It seems like a win.
Famines happened twice under Stalin. During collectivization, which established the industrialization that prevented the famine under Khrushchev's dumbass policies in the first place, and after the most devastating war in the fucking history of humanity, probably. So I would say that Stalin's record is pretty good. Lysenko's ideas were adopted after the famine of 32 and 33, and it looks like to me that he did pretty fucking well.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it does. Why? Okay, let me ask you a simple logical question.
Literally no scientist.
Shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck about any scientist. Every single scientist can suck my cock. Every single scientist can come here and suck my cock. Do not invoke the authority of these fraudulent piece of shit scientists. Don't fucking evoke the authority of scientists in the fucking presence of the Khan. The Khan demands the scientists suck his cock. Do not evoke the authority of fucking scientists in my fucking presence. They will all suck my cock. Second of all, I don't give a fuck about your appeal to authority, boy. You're now talking to the fucking Khan. There's no authority of science here. You understand? Second of all,
I mean, even beyond authority, there are
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You haven't made an independent argument. All you've done is appeal to authority. You have not made a single fucking argument here. So finally, there was another. Listen, let me ask you a simple logical question. Shut your fucking mouth. And you know I got you cornered here. You can't say fucking shit. Why is it?
What about a genetically modified?
Shut the fuck up. I'll explain GMOs in a second. Why is it that Lysenko's ideas had been adopted for more than a decade, and yet there was only one famine, which coincidentally was after the most devastating war in the history of the Soviet Union? If Lysenko's ideas were responsible for famine, why didn't they lead to more famines than they did? Why didn't we see famines throughout the entirety of the duration in which Lysenko's methods were adopted on a widespread scale? It's a simple question.
I guess they weren't, things are gray, right? Like, so maybe they weren't 100% damaging. They did contribute to the famine, right? So
okay, what evidence do you have for that? What evidence do you have that they contributed to the famine?
Well, you can read books on this, right? Like,
okay, and give me a primary source. Give me a raw meat and potatoes primary source.
Let's talk about the benefits.
I don't want to shift gears. I want a raw meat and potatoes primary source that Lysenko's ideas contributed to famine.
All right. You want me to look that up right now?
Well, you're clearly saying it, so you clearly know it, so you can clearly cite it.
So, while I'm doing this, I just want to ask you a question, okay? What benefits do you think Lysenko's idea brought to the field? You know?
Oh, sure. Lysenko's ideas, first of all, for practical, this is what Lysenko was concerned with most of all. Lysenko hated metaphysics. He hated bullshit. He didn't care about philosophy. He cared about feeding people. That was he was called the barefooted peasant. And he succeeded in that. He produced more grain yields more successfully than had been done before. Second of all, Lysenko also contributed.
Do you have a source for that?
Yeah, you can look at any account of Soviet grain yields in the period in which Lysenko's methods were adopted. I can link you that if you want. I can link you it in the Discord if you want.
Yeah, link it.
Okay, you want me to link right now Soviet grain yields?
Yeah.
Soviet grain yields. Here we go. Grain production in the USSR. Okay, I have to find beginning in 32.
Based.
Okay.
Lysenko was right.
Here you go. I mean, this is pretty damning stuff. I mean, it's like,
Right.
it's that simple. Here you go. This is one example of many you could probably have. And also, guys, put in the fact-checking and give this guy the stuff in fact-checking. You look in fact-checking. This is just what I pulled from Google right now. But everyone is free to link more for him. Okay? So this is just one. Okay? Second of all, the also important thing was that Lysenko actually contributed to the field of biology itself because he allowed us to rethink the process of evolution and speciation inadvertently, by the way. This is all because of his practical... This is all because of his meat and potatoes practical methods when it came to agriculture. But inadvertently, he discovered that biology works in ways that the geneticists weren't able to account for. And now that we're seeing that all these discoveries in microbiology, which, again, traditional evolutionary synthesis cannot account for, Lysenko's ideas seem awfully proximate to an actual explanation and ability to make sense of these. Like, how is it that genetic mutation, how is this possible? That's the question scientists ask. How is this possible? Well, Lysenko already provides the paradigm with which to explain how these discoveries are even possible in the first place.
So the link that you provided ends in 1940.
Yeah, well, that's just what I found on Google. I can try to find other ones. I searched through a few Soviet.
So
hold on, I'll get more. I'll get another one.
Okay. So I mean, epigenetics doesn't disprove, gene theory in any way.
Why not?
Well, because it's essentially the fact that there are triggers that determine what phenotypes can be present.
Okay, sure. Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of these triggers?
So, for example, certain hallucinogenic drugs can trigger certain mental health issues.
Mendeloid.
So there are there's like an activation.
Wait. Hold on. Thank you, Pirate. Thank you, Pirate. Look, hold on. Okay. I asked you for a gene trigger. I didn't ask you for a hallucinogenic effect on someone's brain. I asked you for...
So it's an environmental thing, right? So something that you would expose yourself to that would trigger a
So
gene,
what
right?
gene is responsible for that phenotype?
For the I think it's schizophrenia that generally.
Can you give me the list of? Can you give me the gene or the list of genes that are supposedly responsible for this? And I want to go through the study on stream too, just
I
so
would
I
have
could
to look up the exact code.
Yeah. Go ahead. Give me the gene that's responsible for the schizophrenia.
Because I'm sure there are multiple factors involved.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because genes are pretty complex.
Well, I mean, you're already way beyond the territory of the people Lysenko was arguing with, because according to them, there's not way more factors. There's an essence, there's a gene, and that's responsible for everything. So I don't know.
Well, that's not exactly.
That's not exactly why, because the fundamental paradigm of genetics is collapsing at the seams with every new discovery.
Like, they did understand that phenotypes, did vary, right?
Okay, but they varied as the nutritive soil of the gene.
Right. Yeah, so they were wrong in some aspects. I'll give you that.
Okay. So you're saying Lysenko was right?
Like epigenetics is a new field that made it a little bit more...
You know what epigenetics means?
Right? It's the effects of...
No, what does it mean, the word epigenetic? What does that mean?
I don't know the etymology.
Okay, it means beyond genetics. Because genetics are no longer sufficient as a paradigm with which to explain the phenotypes that we have.
Yeah, so
every time they look for genes...
But that doesn't disprove genes, right?
Yeah, what do you mean it doesn't disprove genes?
Saying that there are things that go beyond genes that affect genes doesn't mean that...
No, there are things that... which means that the so-called gene, which they arbitrarily claim is certain segments of DNA, do not have the causal role that they claimed before that they did. The process by which traits are selected for happens beyond the gene. That's pretty fucking wild.
What do you mean by that?
It means the phenotypes that we have are given expression in ways beyond strands of DNA. And actually, epigenetics as a field arose because of a few factors. One of the important factors was the fact that transgenerational inheritance was proven based on environmental stimuli and triggers, like the induction of trauma. Secondly, and this is a very important context. Hold on. Secondly, and this is a very important context. The paradigm of genetics was failing. The attempt to isolate a gene for a trait was failing. So they switched from genetic causation explanations for traits, which was a complete failure. They couldn't find genes that were responsible for phenotypes in discrete ways. They found that, well, there's multiple genes.
But we do have genes that link directly to traits, right?
No, because I'll explain to you this way. You can say that traits are dependent. No. This is why it's wrong. Because you can say traits are dependent on a gene, right? That doesn't mean the gene caused it. Which means, put it this way, if you take something away, you're going to have an effect. If you take a gene away, there could be an effect, a so-called strand of DNA. But that doesn't prove that DNA is the site of causation. Second of all, there are very, very few traits that can be directly linked to strands of what we see on the strands of DNA. But you understand
that the proteins that make up like what the being is like are directly translated from the DNA strands, right?
No, they're not. They're not directly translated.
Yes, they are.
No, they are not. That is an assumption. That's the fundamental. What is it called? The fundamental dogma of microbiology, which was disproven recently.
No,
so it's not
never
true.
Disproven. That's a fact. If you want to,
no, it's not. No, it's not. Okay, we're gonna actually. I'm gonna walk. I want you to watch my stream right now because I'll walk you through this.
Okay, you're gonna here.
I'll walk you through it. Okay, so this is from a reputable source. This is not from a Lysenkoist source. It's from a reputable source. It's the end of the gene as we know it. We're not nearly as determined by our genes as we once thought. And let me see. So this is the paradigm you're talking about. DNA template, proteins, developing characteristics. So the central dogma can be conceived as a one-way flow of information from the code to the gene. So this is the direct thing you're talking about, right? Then came the brilliant technology of sequencing genes. And let's continue. So scientists now understand that the information in the DNA code can only serve as a template for a protein. It cannot possibly serve as instructions for the more complex task of putting proteins together into a fully functioning being, no more than characters on a typewriter can produce a story. Enzymes and other proteins, eggs and sperm contain diversified factors, still some other products of the parent's genes. Okay, so DNA is not a cause in an active sense. It is described as a passive database, which is used by the organism to enable it to make the proteins that it requires. It's easy to see how the impression of direct genetic instructions arose. Parents pass on. So he's saying there's not a direct relationship whatsoever. Different proteins with widely different functions can be produced from the same gene. Okay? All of these things that this article is pointing out indicate that genes do not directly code for proteins in the it's not a direct process. And as a matter of fact, with this, if you read this article, it's going to show you how there's been discoveries which show an inversion of the process, which basically means the germline can be crossed, and that DNA itself, the way DNA itself works, is altered by the cytoplasm, or sorry, the rest of the cell outside of the nucleus. Okay?
There's DNA there too, right?
Where?
Like outside of the...
No, I know. The mitochondrial DNA. I know. Right. But the cytoplasm, which is not the mitochondrial DNA only, can affect the nuclear DNA, the way it's expressed. So all of these things are interdependent in ways we were absolutely clueless about before. Only we weren't clueless about them because Lysenko already understood this based on his paradigm of biology.
Lysenko had nothing to do with this.
Why?
Because he had no idea about this. He didn't even believe in genetics.
No. Lysenko did not reject microbiology. He just wasn't a microbiologist. But the way Lysenko describes macrobiological processes seems to coincidentally align with what we're now discovering about microbiology. So that's my point.
No, his theories were based, again, on Lamarckism, which is the idea of
No, they were not. Lamarck was just as much... Okay, Darwin was just as much... Darwin was just as much...
in the individual and changes to...
No, you're reading you're reading the NPC script right now. Darwin was just as much an influence on Lysenko as Lamarck was. Lysenko merely claimed that the whole-scale repudiation of Lamarck by the scientific establishments was wrong, and it was based on ideology and metaphysics. It wasn't based on science and practical science.
Lysenko believed that there could be even greater change than Lamarck. Lamarck at least thought it was like somewhat gradual. Lysenko believed there was almost no limit to how much you could change. No,
that's not true. Lamarck believed that in nature it was gradual, which is probably something Lysenko also believed. But as a scientist, Lysenko is not just trying to emulate nature, he's trying to direct the powers and forces of nature in a practical way.
Establish
what you're saying is, let me explain to you how fucking stupid what you're saying is. You're saying something like, well, a scientist found out that it's very rare for electricity to hit a candle and light a candle. And then because Thomas Edison wanted to be more rapid about it with his light bulb, that proved... No, it's the same thing. Lysenko was a scientist who wanted to take the insights of Lamarckism and apply them practically.
Right. But what I'm saying is that Lamarckism is wrong.
Well, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So you're saying it is impossible? There is no possibility. So inherited characteristics cannot be passed on. Acquired characteristics cannot be passed on.
Use and disuse. Okay, so it's not like, the more I reach for something, the longer.
Lysenko didn't say that either. Lysenko was based in the Russian scientific tradition of what's his name, Minchurin, whatever that guy's name was, before Soviet ideology, by the way, which was based on vernalization and things like that. Lysenko was talking about induced changes. He was not talking about use or disuse. I don't know where you're getting that from. Well, then that's an aspect of Lamarck's thinking that Lamarck's theory that Lysenko did not adopt. Lysenko didn't base it... I mean, use maybe could play a factor, but the main thing for Lysenko was...
that was why he was,
the main thing for Lysenko was environmentally induced changes.
Right, but that's the thing, is these environmentally induced changes, right? He believes they're based on what are use and disuse, right? So he...
No, he does. Okay, where?
He sprayed low-temperature water on certain crops in order to try to
That's called vernalization. That was discovered by someone before Lysenko, and it's still used to this day. I don't know.
No, and there is a variety of, how things at lower temperatures can actually produce better. That is actually something that is true, but it's not that if you continue to apply these low temperatures that it will change something about the species, right? It's not that, like, if I continuously apply these cold waters to this plant, that it'll actually change the plant, and that future generations will be able to withstand colder and colder.
Well, the thing
weather.
is that
that's not a fact.
The thing is that what you're saying is wrong. Because you don't know that. You don't know if vernalization leads to generational changes. It could. If the correct methods were applied.
We've never observed anything like that.
Vernalization by itself cannot, but when applying Lysenko's special methods for inducing generational change, you don't know that they couldn't. I'm just saying
we've never observed the generational change that came from anything like that, right?
We did with Lysenko and his special experiments. His experiments were not able to be reproduced because his method wasn't able to be reproduced. Because you have to
he showed that vernalization is a great idea, and it can even increase crop yields in some cases, right? But he didn't show that it actually changed the organism and that it would change its. He
did. It's just that Western scientists claim that his results were fabricated based on nothing.
Because the thing is that if it did show generational change, you would expect that they would implement his ideas for longer, expecting more results. But that didn't.
They did. They implemented them in the Soviet Union and in China until he fell out of favor with Khrushchev, for reasons that had nothing to do with science. And
so again, if people want to test out these ideas, I'm fine. I think it probably shouldn't start on the scale of like an entire nation, just to avoid any kind of issue.
Yeah, here's the thing. I agree.
If you
listen. I agree. But Lysenko's methods were very experientially unorthodox. So I do agree that scientists should be investigating this and studying it. The problem is that they wouldn't be getting any support or backing by the scientific establishment, because there has been a dogma of genetics that was adopted.
But genetics does.
I do foresee there is talk. Listen, there is talk that Russian scientists are starting to reassess Lysenko's work in light of epigenetics, and I heard also the same is going on in China. So we are going to see a return of Lysenkoism into the 21st century.
If his ideas are correct, then we would expect that, right?
I do expect that.
Yeah, I don't, but hey, I could be wrong, right? I'll admit that. But
you don't, let's look at how rational your odds. Let's look at how rational. Hold on.
If anything, it would be a cross.
Okay. Let's look at the rationality of the odds you're betting right now, right? So we are witnessing the collapse of genetics as a paradigm. We're witnessing the collapse of evolutionary synthesis at the seams.
We're witnessing the development of genetics.
So, okay, this is what soy Reddit scientists do. They're like, oh, well, this new thing completely contradicts everything we thought about genetics, but that's okay because that's just deepening our knowledge of genetics. At what point...
It doesn't contradict everything we thought about genetics.
Yes, it does. It really actually does.
Ideas are still held up, like the law of segregation.
If there are listen. Okay, what you're saying is just as absurd as if you're in a fucking boat, and at the bottom floor of the boat, all of these holes of water start springing. Oh no, the boat's fine. It's just another hole. No, there's clearly something wrong going on, and the boat is sinking. That's what's going on.
No, ideas evolve, right?
Okay, how can a coherent? Explain this to me. Explain this to me. How can a coherent theory of genetics survive all of these holes?
So that's like saying, the theory of gravity, right?
No, it's not.
Newton had the original idea,
and
then Einstein came along and he poked a bunch of holes.
Gravity. Listen, hold on. Gravity is an awfully simple general idea. The idea of gravity is simply like this: it's the force that pulls shit down. And it begins from there. Why are things in space?
You have no understanding of gravity.
It's the force that is responsible for the way in which things in space interact. And it stops there. But genetics is much more specific than the idea of gravity. Genetics is an idea according to which the nature of organisms... Okay, a gene is a unit of heredity. So the idea of genetics is that there are these essential units of heredity that are responsible for why organisms are the way they are. So it's not comparable to fucking gravity at all.
But that doesn't mean that they're the only thing responsible for why organisms are the way they are,
It's literally called a unit of heredity.
Okay.
So yes, it is making the claim that why we pass on the characteristics we do is because they're encoded in these units.
and that is true.
Which is not fucking true.
Yeah, we have multiple things. We have prenatal, pediatric, and adult genetics, right, where we diagnose like rare diseases and genetic origins. We have genetic oncology, which focuses on certain cancer risks that are genetic. We have neurogenetics, which focuses on muscular and neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Huntington's. We have cardiology that focuses.
We don't have any association between genes
we have molecular
and Alzheimer's.
genetics.
Hold on. First of all,
we have genetically
all those things you're talking about are based on.
Hell, look at pot smokers, dude. They
do
that all.
First of all of those things. Shut up about pot smokers for a second. All of those things you're talking about are based on widespread, multiple quote unquote genetic associations, which means there's associations between having certain strands of this on your DNA and having this certain risk, right? Mm-hmm. There's a few holes I can poke in that. First of all, it doesn't establish a direct causal connection. There could very well be other reasons for why, like, for example, based on geography and your population, like origins. There's so many reasons when it comes to
different factors.
When you bring statistics into the math, it fucking collapses. The second thing is DNA is not the same as genes, okay? Just because there's an association with certain traits and your DNA doesn't mean your DNA is functioning as a gene.
Genes are a segment of DNA that
like for example,
for building molecules.
For example, a more holistic view of the risks of having a certain disease can probably be assessed from your parents' more holistic biological constitution rather than just their DNA. I'm sure you would yield far more results.
It's not just your parents. Sometimes it's sometimes it skips a generation. There are certain things like male pattern baldness that skips a generation, right?
There's no association between any number of genes in male pattern baldness.
And then we have certain things like supernumerary, right?
Okay,
like,
you're making it seem like I'm denying. Hold on, you're making it seem like I'm denying a complex science of heredity, rather than rejecting the genetic paradigm of heredity, which is what I'm rejecting. I'm rejecting that there's a gene.
So you're rejecting the fact that there's a unit of heredity.
Yes.
Yeah, so how are things inherited?
Things are inherited. You want me to give you
DNA doesn't matter.
You want me to give you the birds and bees talk?
Because you know that DNA comes from your parents, right?
Yes. What's your point?
So your DNA is a part of your mom and a part of your dad, and it makes you.
DNA is not a gene. DNA is something inside of a cell.
DNA codes for genes.
DNA is something inside of a cell's nucleus.
DNA codes for a gene.
No, it does not.
Yes, they do.
You don't even know what you're saying. DNA. They don't say DNA. The Mendeloid gene tards do not say it codes for DNA. They say that there are strands of DNA and that's what genes are, is the strands of DNA.
No, dude, do you know what the DNA is made out of? Out of bases, right?
Do you know
adenine, cytosine,
the strands of those bases are called genes by these people?
Codes, so a specific length of code would
It's not a code. Don't call it a fucking code, you fucking Reddit computers nerd. It's not a fucking code.
Man, look at CRISPR. Okay, if genes weren't real, what the fuck is CRISPR?
I'll explain CRISPR. CRISPR is a complete scandalous failure, which does not work. This is really something.
Yes, it works.
Hold on. Not intergenerationally, not across several generations. No, it does not. You didn't know that? You didn't know that even after genetic modifications into the DNA, that for whatever reason, generationally it returns to the original thing, and the body treats it as like a foreign injury. It treats it as an injury.
We haven't had CRISPR for generations yet.
But with GMOs, that's how. You didn't know that's how GMOs work? The organism treats the organism treats, for whatever reason, the genetic modification as an injury. And it corrects for the injury across generations.
Well, it treats it as, it like recognizes specific...
No, so there's an epigenetic reason for that. When you alter plants genetically, across several generations, they don't retain the changes.
So if you're altering them genetically, aren't you already admitting to the fact that there are genes?
No, because what I'm claiming is that all you're doing is butchering and mutilating the organism across several generations.
That's
let me make a correction. Across several generations, I'm not certain that they correct the modifications, but what I do know is that across generations, the intended phenotypes don't survive, and the organism actually tends to become corrupted and no longer reproducible, which is why there's so many new generations of GMOs that always have to be created, because it's not sustainable for actually sustaining life across generations. When you're modifying these genes, this DNA, you're effectively butchering the innards of an organism.
And there's no facts in what you're saying right now.
So do you not realize that GMOs don't last across generations?
They do.
No, they don't. They literally do not. I don't know how you could be so fucking ignorant that you don't know this. GMOs literally do not survive across generations. They don't. They always have to fucking come up with new modifications for new generations because they're not sustainable.
Man, they can breed. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not across several generations.
Yes, they can.
Okay, I apparently need to show you like a source or something because we've come to this crossroads, so let me just do that. GMOs...
Like, obviously, you could
genetically
modify certain organisms so that they can't breed. Right?
I'm getting it for you.
What is it?
Bananas don't even have a seed anymore because they've been so corrupted by GMOs. I mean, there's just so much evidence for this. I'm looking for the right one.
So there are things that you can... Like, I'm not saying you can't make genetic changes that could make an organism not breed. I'm just saying I'm just saying that genetic modification doesn't naturally lead to that, right?
But like yes, it does. Listen, someone put it in fact checking. I have to argue with this guy. He's not giving me time to look it up. He's arguing instead. Listen, so someone put it in fact checking. Listen, when you modify an organism genetically, you're basically fucking the organism up. That's pretty much that.
No, you're modifying its...
You're fucking it up. You're ruining it.
Well, I mean, if you want to say modifying its genes, that's what it means, then sure.
But you're fucking up how it works.
I mean, you're changing how it works.
You're making it so it becomes corrupted and doesn't live across generations.
No, it does live. Yeah, it can live.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It just depends. Like I said,
it becomes corrupted, which means it becomes corrupted and degenerates across fucking generations.
I think the mule can't breed, right? Like there are things that happen that way, but
listen.
Those are specific changes.
You are literally such a fucking idiot. You're literally such a fucking idiot that you go all over the place. Breeding dogs and horses and mules is not the same as fucking genetic modification.
That is.
No, it's not. Genetic modification is when you directly go to the fucking gene and change it. When you have things fuck and crossbreed in interesting ways.
To modify genetics.
GMOs are not just a result of crossbreeding. How do you not fucking know that?
No, selective breeding is genetic modification.
But that's not what is meant by GMOs.
It is a type of genetic modification.
Okay, that's your little nerd, actually, but I reject that. That's what we're arguing about right now. Is the way in which shit reproduces genetic? So you're fucking arguing the premise right now by saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're arguing the premise, which is a form of circular reasoning, you fucking dumbass.
Like, you haven't yet provided any evidence that disproves the idea of genetics.
Okay.
Like right now,
that's because you can't bear with me and use your own fucking head. This is okay. I'm inventing a logical fallacy, which is called the logical fallacy of wanting me to flash my cock. And the flashing cock part is where you're like, instead of having to walk you, instead of actually thinking rationally about what I'm arguing, you just want me to show you something that just proves it. Just show you my cock. Just show you something that just immediately makes you submit to what I'm saying. That's what you want. Right? You want the logical fallacy of flashing the cock.
You should have something to back
That's not how a debate works. I can't just show you an authority. Listen, you want a phallus. You want me to just show you a phallus that's going to beat you into submission. I can't do that.
Up to logical reasoning, right?
What you literally want me to do is just to show you a phallus that's going to beat you into submission.
Science is evidence-based.
You literally want me to show you a phallus. You want me to show you a phallus that's going to slap you into submission. That's not how arguments work.
You think that science can be applied to theory somehow, but that science is no. Science.
I don't care about your dumbass philosophy of science, which I wipe my ass with. I wipe my ass with your dumbass. I don't care about your 12-year-old speculation about what science is. I don't care.
This is what this means. Like, fuck, that's not, that's beyond it. You have to show me evidence in science.
Yeah, you want me to show you a phallus, my cock?
No, I
offer declined.
You keep bringing it up though, so you seem pretty eager to share.
Yeah, because you're saying, show me evidence. Are you like some kind of empiricist where you think that truth is just showing you things? You just want to sense it. You don't actually have to mediate it rationally.
I believe that if you can't show me,
you don't have to like mediate empirical reality rationally. It's just there. It's just there.
Well,
like for example, I can show you. Yeah. Okay, for example, look on my stream right now. No, shut the fuck up and look at my stream right now. I can show you this sunglasses, right? How you make sense of it is going to not be something that's going to be contained just from me showing you sunglasses. I can't just show you sunglasses and argue that they look cool. If I tell you they look cool, I have to explain the aesthetical reasons and where I'm coming from. Just showing you is not going to be enough. You understand? So what actually is empirically in dispute here? Let's get to that. What do you want empirically?
Okay, so your claim is that the field of genetics is false, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what evidence do you have for that?
So what you are trying to say is that there is a direct sense stimuli on my 5 senses that leads me to that conclusion, right?
That leads you to the conclusion that
genetics is false. So you're saying, what is your evidence that genetics is false? So you're basically asking for a direct source of sensory stimulation that leads me to that conclusion.
Why do you believe what you believe? Yeah.
Okay. Well, firstly, when you say yeah, you're basically saying yes, I want a direct sensory source of stimulation.
I want to know why you believe what you believe.
Okay, if you want to know why I believe what I believe, why don't you just rewind the VOD and how I can tell you about how Lysenko explains how macroorganisms work in terms of what we know now about microbiology better than geneticists can do, and that actually the burden of proof is on the metaphysicians, you call scientists, to prove genes exist, which they haven't. So why should I believe in genes?
No, genes have been proven time and time again.
Okay, how?
So we can actually look at them, right? We've coded specific genes.
You can look at my bare ass. You can look at my bare fucking hairy ass. Prove to me it's a gene.
That's not the point, right?
That is the fucking point. DNA! I'm asking you to prove DNA is a gene! Don't fucking tell me you look at DNA and that proves the gene. You have to make the argument that DNA is a gene. Okay? Or it's full of genes. So how have you proven genes?
What is a gene? What is it? First, we'd have to define what is a gene to you.
A gene is a unit of heredity.
Right. So there are units of heredity found within the DNA, within the genetic code.
Prove it.
What do you mean by prove it?
Prove it. Prove they function as units of heredity.
You're talking about what, like things that we've observed? So, for example,
prove that the gene functions as a unit of heredity.
So you want me to find you a specific gene that codes for a specific thing, or?
I want you to show me a gene that functions in real life as a unit of heredity. The unit of the heredity of a trait.
What does that mean?
It sounds like you're stumped by the bewildering metaphysics of genetics, which is the point. It's fucking stupid.
Your question doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'm asking you, by your own qualifications, because you asked me first, for evidence that shows a gene functioning as a unit of heredity.
So a specific gene that leads to a specific trait?
As a unit of heredity. Prove it.
So we know that things like Alzheimer's, things like Huntington's.
Okay, stop. I want one example. I don't want 5 billion that I have to hunt down individually. I want to hunt down one. Alzheimer's.
Let's talk about Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. What is the gene that is the unit of heredity of Alzheimer's?
I don't know that by heart. So you'd have to
please look it up and link the study so I can look at it on stream.
I don't even know if that's a known one, right? Like if we know the exact line of code. I can find you an exact line of code if that's what you're asking for.
So when I asked you for a unit of heredity and how it functions as a unit of heredity, you told me Alzheimer's, and we don't know actually.
Well, we don't know exactly.
Well, you don't know exactly, so shut the fuck up and stop acting like there's evidence. There's not.
Okay, there is.
Okay.
I can find you some. I just...
find one, please. Find one that you do know this time.
Okay. Okay, so the LAX-Z gene encodes the portion of the mRNA that is responsible for the production of beta-galactosidase and translates of the LAX-Y
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so the LAX-Z gene encodes
the portion... The LAC-Z gene.
Yeah, LAC.
LAC.
Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, LAC-Z gene.
LAC-Z gene. Go ahead.
Yeah, that encodes for the portion of the mRNA. It
encodes for the portion of mRNA. Go ahead.
That's responsible for the production of beta-galactosidase.
Of beta-galactosidase. What are beta-galactosidase?
It's a specific enzyme.
Okay, for the production of an enzyme. So you named me a strand of DNA that appears to be responsible for the mRNA that produces an enzyme. Produces a specific enzyme.
Right.
But now that it's been proven, I mean, okay, first of all, there's two prongs to this. The first prong is that's not a fucking unit of heredity. That's an intracellular, intracellular process you're describing about how DNA functions. I never denied DNA functions in a certain way for a cell. So for you to say it's a unit of heredity is fucking stupid.
But that's what a gene is,
okay,
right?
Hold on. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because just because the DNA functions in this way within a cell doesn't mean it's a unit of heredity. Okay? A unit of heredity would be more like it would be more like the Alzheimer's example you couldn't fucking give me. Something that actually expresses and manifests at the phenotypical level. Okay?
Some things are very complex, right?
Okay, like I'm talking about phenotypical traits,
like
first of all.
This is like
the second point, hold on. The second point
right?
Hold on, shut the fuck up.
And there's multiple things involved in making
multiple things. Oh, genes. There's many genes working together. Trust me, guys. The gene thing is not wrong. There's just multiple thousands of genes where it's SNPs now. Shut the fuck up.
But if you talk about
shut the fuck up. 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 Okay, I have to mute the dumbass. I have to mute him. He doesn't know how to shut the fuck up. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know where he is. Shut your fucking gobbling chicken mouth. You are a gobbling chicken. Shut the fuck up. Second of all, okay, there's two prongs. The first one, which your gobbling had nothing to do with, which was that you didn't even prove a unit of heredity. All you proved is that a segment of DNA appears to have some relationship to an enzyme at an intracellular level. Well, that doesn't fucking prove anything about a gene. Because when it comes to phenotypical traits, you don't have a direct relation from the enzyme to the trait, okay? So, because everything works together. But that's just if I granted you that. The truth is that we know that proteins and enzymes, a variety of proteins and enzymes, can be produced based on the same gene, which basically means, and that's the whole purport of epigenetics, that there is something responsible for why proteins and enzymes give expression in the way that they do, or are produced in the way they are, that is beyond the gene. So 2 prongs. You didn't want to fucking let me get my second prong in. You just wanted to ramble by that. Well, it's really complex. I don't care how complex. That has nothing to do with anything. You have failed to give me a unit of heredity. Now, let's hear your argument.
So I provided a unit of heredity.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
No, you did not. No, you did not.
A specific gene that codes for a specific enzyme, right? So that's a direct...
You literally are an NPC who does not... I had 2 prongs to my argument. First, you have not proven that the gene is responsible for the enzyme even, because multiple different enzymes can be produced from the same gene. No, you haven't! Because if multiple different enzymes can be produced from the same gene, that means the gene is not what is fucking essential to it.
No, that means that there can be other things involved. That doesn't mean that the gene is essential.
It means the gene is not the essence of why.
Water is essential to my life, right? But so is food.
Okay, you need to stop pivoting. No, it does not.
I'm making basic common sense arguments.
You're making stupid fucking arguments.
Keep up.
You haven't fucking named a single gene. You've named a relationship between the production of an enzyme and a certain strand of DNA. Well, too bad no one denied the role of DNA in the holistic makeup of a cell, okay? What I have denied is that the DNA functions as a unit of heredity. We are talking about the process of heredity.
Yeah, and DNA is 100%.
So is everything else.
There are other things.
It's more complex. It's more nuanced.
Yeah,
is this not the result of paganism? Right. Why are you a pagan? Why are you a pagan? No. You know what? Since I'm noticing this pattern and you're not making any scientific arguments, we have to start talking about religion and philosophy now, because you can't make scientific arguments.
Never studied actual science.
You have not said a single thing of any scientific significance. You have not said a single thing of any scientific significance. All you've done is give expression to the Reddit rhetoric.
I've mentioned specific.
Go ahead. Speak. Let the NPC speak, and I'll tell you why I interrupt him. Speak.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's exactly it, right? I've proven time and time again that there are multiple things that we can link to the field of genetics, multiple benefits.
No meat and potatoes. Look at all the salad he's giving us. Look at all the fucking salad he's giving us. No meat and potatoes. Let me explain something to you.
I've already given you all the meat and
potatoes. Let me go. You've given me less than shit. We have to shift to philosophy and religion now because you fail at science. So it seems to me the common denominator to all of your arguments is the Reddit paganism, according to which well, forget about an actual underlying reason. It's complex. It's complex. It's nuanced. It's nuanced. It's complex. This is polytheism. This is paganism. I'm a monotheist. I believe there is coherent reasons for things. Don't fucking tell me it's complex. You have to explain the complexity. Explain to me the complexity in a simple way.
I can't.
Give me a coherent paradigm from which you can explain the complexity. That's what Lysenko does. That's what your gene-tards fail to do.
Yeah, so Lysenko tried to attribute, like certain ideas, certain theological ideas, certain philosophical ideas, Marxism mostly,
to he did
science.
Not.
And that's not
Lysenko came from the Russian tradition of agronomy of Ivan Michurin, who is not a Marxist. It just so happened to be... Lysenko saw dialectical materialism as a way to allow him to do what he was doing. He didn't use it as the cause for his beliefs.
Proper settings and expose them to the right
Anglo-Saxon dogma did not allow him...
of change.
What?
That you could educate them to do anything.
That's complete horseshit.
That's exactly what he thought.
No, it's fucking not! That's your speculation about why Lysenko's ideas were adopted, that the soy Western dumbasses, retarded Westerners have come up with. But there's no evidence for the view that, Lysenko's ideas were used as a way to change human nature. The Soviets never saw human nature as a problem to begin with. They don't think it needs to be changed.
What are you talking about? No, he believed that if you put a specific being, that it wasn't, there wasn't gradualism, that it wasn't necessary for you to wait for the process.
That's already accepted in mainstream science. That's already accepted in the theory of punctuation. Even the Mendeloid.
That is not true.
Shut the fuck up, holy fuck. Even the fucking Mendeloids now agree there's punctuated equilibrium and that speciation is not a gradual process, but a process of violent, rapid changes in geology. So shut the fuck up about your gradualism cope.
That's not true at all.
Really, punctuated equilibrium is not basically accepted in mainstream biology?
There is still extremely gradual how we came from monkeys.
Can you prove? We don't know shit about how we came from monkeys.
Yeah, we do. We have a ton of fossils.
We don't know how we came from monkeys, dumbass. How was it gradual?
We have so many intermediate species between us and monkeys that it's insane.
Okay, but you have yet to prove a process of gradual change.
Yeah, we can visualize it, yeah. We have the fossils. You can go.
Having fossils does not mean you prove the change was gradual.
Yeah, you can date them.
Okay, when you differentiate those fossils based on different species, you have to prove the speciation was gradual. Not that there was a variety of... Listen, if there's a million years, let's say, that's probably, 20 million between us and monkeys, supposedly. If you find a bunch of different fossils... That's not proof of gradualism. That's proof of a bunch of different fossils. You have to prove that the process of one fossil leading to another was gradual, rather than punctuated by geological catastrophes.
They weren't punctuated by geological catastrophes.
Because you're not familiar with the mainstream theory of punctuated equilibrium.
Yeah, that's not factual, dude. That's not how evolution is. Propagated itself for millions of years.
Wait, so now you're saying punctuated equilibrium is not factual?
I'm saying that evolution is for certain gradual.
So guys, let me explain to you this, guys. You're saying for certain it's gradual. Something no one knows. You're saying for certain. Let me explain to you guys. I just want to use this as an example of I just want to use this as an example of the fucking idiocy of the Mendeloids.
The evolutionary track, right? So, for example, when certain organisms are led extinct, right? Like when the dinosaurs were extinct, right? That's a huge, massive shift in the evolutionary track, right? So, yeah, that made a huge...
I don't care about your nuance mongering. Listen, Bhutan, Chance. I am going to sleep listening to you because... I'm muting him. I have to mute the dumbass. Mute the dumbass. Shut his voice off. He's so fucking boring. You would never be a good streamer. I listen to you. I want to turn off my TV. You say nothing of value. Nothing you say has meat and potatoes. Nothing you say has any substance. You're a complete time waster. Here's the fucking point. You have yet to prove speciation is gradual. I'm not even going to waste time on this because punctuated equilibrium as an example, and this is what I wanted to set out to show you. Why are people so willing to believe in genetics and reject Lysenko and all this stuff when by their own logic, this guy's saying punctuated equilibrium is wrong. It's for certain that it's gradual. It's like still debated by scientists to this day. There's nothing certain, right? Punctuated equilibrium has a lot of evidence behind it. This is known in the scientific establishment, okay? The biological, evolutionary, whatever. It's part of evolutionary synthesis. They're trying to integrate it. This just goes to show you that these people don't think in terms of any like scientific discoveries. They think in terms of ideology. He has literally just said he rejects punctuated equilibrium, an absurd claim, because of his defense, dogmatic defense of Darwinian dogma. He's saying things not because they're true, but because they're ideologically coherent for him. And his coherency is paganism. Well, it's nuanced. Well, it's complex. My cock is complex. But your mom can suck it very simply.
So you're weak. That's why you have to constantly mute me.
No, I don't, because you gobble like a chicken saying nothing.
I don't reject.
Okay, listen, Chance. I'm gonna let you say what you wanted to say.
Punctuated equilibrium, right, has played a role in the evolutionary tract. I said that, right? Okay. That like the wiping out of the dinosaur example, right?
That's not the main example of punctuated equilibrium.
Massive shift in the evolutionary tract.
That's something you learned when you were 8 years old. That's not an example of punctuated equilibrium or main example.
Well, that would be one, yeah, but that's how
it's not a main example. No, it's not. That's like a something. That's some shit you learned when you were 5 years old, and you think
I'm using it because I'm talking to a person who hasn't learned beyond that.
You haven't learned shit. You didn't even know what it was before I fucking mentioned it to you. You know so little about biology.
Man, I know more about biology than you do, and that's
you didn't know what punctuated equilibrium was before you fucking Googled it just now because I told you to.
No, I was talking about it before you muted me.
No, you weren't. You just fucking mentioned it. Okay, can you give me an example? Hold on. Without Googling, very quick. Without Googling, very quick. Give me an example of punctuated equilibrium besides the dinosaurs. Go ahead.
Ice ages.
No. No, you're just naming extinction level events. Give me a specific example, like on an island with geckos. Because this is what the examples they use. They don't use these broad narrative extinction level events that wipe out a bunch of fucking species. They use specific examples in islands where there's volcanoes. They use specific examples like islands where there's volcanoes or earthquakes and shit like that. That's what they don't use these broad the dinosaurs. When I was 5, I learned about this. Shut the fuck up and give me an actual example of punctuated equilibrium since you know more about it than me.
So are you talking about, like, again...
A specific example of how punctuated equilibrium works. Specifically.
So if a species were to be, like when you were talking about islands, if a species...
No, you can't use my island example because that's what I gave you. So I want to draw from your knowledge now.
Yeah, so I'm not going to use geckos or anything, right? I'm going to talk
your knowledge of how punctuated equilibrium works. You can't Google it. You cannot Google it. Give me it right now. 15 seconds. If you can't, you don't know shit.
Yeah,
15.
So I'm going to talk about dwarf
14,
elephants, right?
13,
so they're dwarf 12, elephants in
11.
the Indonesian archipelago, okay?
Oh, you didn't look that up right now?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Punctuated equilibrium examples. I'm looking this up on Google. If I see those fucking dwarf elephants, then you're fucked.
You're looking up in you're looking it up on Google and you're saying if you find it that I'm fucked.
Yeah, because it proved you just Googled it.
So it shouldn't be on Google?
Not on the first fucking page.
If you Google what?
Because it's such a specific example. The fucking elephants in Indonesia.
Right. So right. Exactly. So Google, what are you going to Google? What do you think?
Don't worry what I'm going to Google.
Well, Google it. Because I didn't I didn't search it myself. So,
oh, you didn't? Where did you get it from?
No. Well, I had watched a YouTube video on it by a guy named Stefan Milo. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, so you just watched the YouTube video just now?
No, I didn't just watch a YouTube video. I watched it a while ago.
You watched it a while ago. Okay, so you just admitted where you got it from. You just admitted where you got it from just now. Thanks. So go on about the Indonesian elephants.
What?
Go on. Explain your example.
Right. So this population of elephants was separated from, the main population that we know. They, suffered from a process known as island dwarfism, which is, there's two processes called island dwarfism and island gigantism, which is like
give me where punctuated equilibrium fits in.
Well, it's a geological change, right? So
and what was the geological change?
The island was split off from the mainland. Because
was this a gradual process or a punctuated process?
The sea level changed.
Okay, that's not punctuated equilibrium, dumbass. That's a gradual geological change leading to a fucking biological phenotypical
the population
change.
Was cut off from...
That's still not punctuated equilibrium. It's in the name. It's punctuated, dumbass. It's a punctuated change, which means it happens very quickly.
That did happen quickly.
The island split off very quickly?
It didn't split off. Like I said, it was a sea level change.
And that was very quick.
Yeah.
How quick?
I don't know exactly how quick.
You literally don't know shit about biology.
Like, I don't know the exact amount of time it took for
you don't know shit about biology. You don't know a fucking thing about biology. You know less about biology than a fucking 12th grader.
Okay, sure. You can say what you want, but you're not making any arguments.
Because you literally didn't even know what punctuated equilibrium was before I told you.
That's not true.
Yes, it fucking is. You literally said... I literally have you on fucking record in my video saying that it's wrong and that it's all gradual, and we know that for certain.
No, I said we know for certain that evolution is gradual. I never said we don't...
Okay, how do you know that for certain? How do you know that for certain?
Because we can observe the fossil record.
How does the fossil record prove gradual change?
Because these things happened over millions of years.
Is that the definition of gradual, dumbass?
Yes.
You know what speciation is?
Things happen over millions of years, then that is gradual.
Are these fossils between the different species of the fossils, which you have to trace together, by the way, are they punctuated by rapid geological changes? Most of the time. Yes, they fucking are.
No, they aren't.
How do you know?
They're only punctuated by our findings, right? So every time we find a new one, 3 new hominid species...
Then by your own admission, if you don't know... If you don't know that... Yeah, this is exactly it. There's a first-time chatter in my chat, and he just put it this way. You can have a punctuated evolutionary change over millions of years. Holy fuck, it's that simple. You can have punctuated evolutionary changes over millions of years.
Right, but that's not
the fact that it happens over millions of years does not prove it's gradual.
What's the definition of gradual?
Gradual basically means that over time, a species just changes without any punctuated rapid changes that define... Like, a species will... It is what it means. Species morph into other species in a gradual way. From one species to another.
Obviously, things will be punctuated, right?
Speciation, if you're saying evolution is gradual, you're saying speciation is gradual. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. It is gradual, yeah.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
And it's wrong.
No, it's not.
Speciation is not gradual.
That's not true.
Yes, it is fucking true.
No, that's not true.
Despite a bunch of shit in fossils over the course of millions of years, from one species to another, that change is gradual. You never find in the fossil record one species slowly becoming another. The same species slowly becoming another species. When a species arises, it arises in a rapid way through punctuated equilibrium.
You have no evidence of that.
It's literally punctuated equilibrium. Yes, there is fucking a ton of evidence in favor of it. There's a ton of evidence in favor of that. There's no evidence in favor of gradual speciation. There's a ton in favor of punctuated equilibrium as the source of speciation. There's a ton.
No, there's plenty for gradualism.
Okay, name one.
Well, the fact that we continue to find more missing links.
Shut the fuck up about the fossil record. I'm gonna explain this to you in a simple way. I have to. Do I have to mute you? You are devoid of a head. You are devoid of thoughts. You are devoid of thoughts. You are empty. You are an empty-headed, airheaded dumbass, devoid of any independent thought. You gobble like a chicken, saying nothing. I'm gonna mute you just so you don't interrupt me very quickly to explain this to you. And I want you to listen to my words very slowly because I'm not going to repeat myself again. Okay? On the fossil record, you find fossils of various different species, which you claim are missing links from one species to another. That's fine. Those are still different species. From one species to another, you have to prove that the change is gradual. That is what you cannot prove or provide me evidence for. That one species slowly changes into another. When it does that, there can't be missing links in between because that implies speciation. It's one species becoming another species, is what I'm looking for. Not multiple species between species, one species becoming another. Can you prove that that is a gradual change? Because you're not going to find it on the fossil record, because fossils are only going to give you the fossil of the same species. If it gives you another species, it's already speciated into another species. So what happens in between? That's what fucking matters. And according to the theory of punctuated equilibrium, and according to the evidence we found, the process by which these missing links are separated from one another are punctuated by geological changes that happen very rapidly, comparatively. So it's that fucking simple. You can't gobble like a chicken now, but notice when you're devoid and stripped of your gobbling abilities, it becomes that simple. Go ahead.
Okay, so you want an example of a species becoming another species?
Gradually.
Okay. So, dogs. We made dogs, right? And we developed all kinds of different dogs, different breeds of dogs, right? They're not wolves anymore. Like, look at a Chihuahua. Tell me it's the same thing as a wolf.
Okay, hold on. Look at a Chihuahua and compare it to an Alaskan Husky.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you know that the speciation between dogs and wolves is arbitrary? Because dogs and gray wolves, by the same logic, are part of the same species, Canis lupus. So no, they're not part of a different species than wolves.
Canis domesticus is the dog.
But that's an arbitrary difference because they can mate with each other, they can breed with each other.
Some of them, not all of them.
Well, not all dog breeds can even breed with each other, and you probably can't. You probably can't breed. You probably can't breed with your second cousin or some shit. It doesn't mean you're not part of the same species.
We watched all of those speciations happen.
What speciations? Dog breeds are not different species.
From wolf to dog, we did that.
But they're still part of the same species. Do you not know that?
Like we've got new. They're not.
You got shit that looks new, but that's not what defines a species. It's not just shit that looks different.
Yeah, it's a gray area.
Yeah, suck my ass.
It's significant enough.
Suck my ass with your gray area.
It's true though. Biology, there are two types of. Right?
Yeah, another concession. I just keep getting a lot of those from you, don't I?
You want to lump things together, and there are types of biologists who want to make very distinct, specific categories for.
But there's no biologist who's going to say they're different species.
That dogs and wolves are different species?
They're not. They're part of the same species. What you're talking about is subspecies, but that's not speciation.
We also have speciation, especially with plants, right? Because it happens quicker with plants.
Okay, give me an example of gradual change in nature.
I think it was, American Goatsburg?
How did it change gradually?
Over the last 100 years, we've seen speciation of the.
That's not gradual, though.
How's that not gradual?
100 years on the evolutionary timescale is gradual.
So they changed, right? We've watched different species.
Yeah, we've changed it because of violent, traumatically induced changes.
Didn't change them. They changed.
They changed because of violently, dramatically, and
it's like how.
What are you saying? In 100 years, we've saw a fucking species change because of a rapid, fucking environmental traumatic. Of course, okay, that's a very rapid change. What am I fucking listening to? What is this?
What are you talking about? So what do you want me to point to? Do you want me to point to things that, like, small changes?
I know you can't point. Listen, Chance, to be clear, I know you can't point to anything, and that's my point.
So the thing is that it's not, when you find another fossil, it's not necessarily another species, right? As you said, it has to be, a certain amount different than the original species in order for it to be considered a new species. And we've seen that, the same species will have different traits. And that these traits over time change. This happens in whales.
Hold on. You don't see species gradually becoming another. You see a abrupt difference between the original species and the speciation.
No, you can watch like whales, and you can watch the way that they've.
Please watch whales. Please watch your whales.
Yeah,
please.
Like in the fossil record, you can see how these changes have happened gradually over time.
No, they don't, because from one species to another, it's abrupt.
It's not another species when something like the.
Okay, so you're saying it's the same species of whale, and it gradually is changing.
Yeah.
Okay, give me one example of that.
It becomes recognized as a different species, right?
Give me one example of that. So between one species and another, in between that, you're saying there's fossils proving the gradual change. Give me one example of that.
It was like something like the fin development in whales.
So, according to you, whales developed fins without speciation, like.
And like you can watch it in the same thing.
Can you give me evidence? Can you give me evidence? We're focusing on the whales right now. We'll get to the birds after. Give me evidence of the whales.
Yeah, you can look at it again. You have to look at.
Give me evidence of the fucking whales. Give me evidence of the fucking whales.
So you want me to find you an article? Okay.
Find me something. So God help me, find me something. And I swear to God, if this is not what I asked you for, you will wear the mark of shame for the rest of your days, and your mother will not look at you the same.
Okay. You like being dramatic, huh? Okay, here we go. I think I got it. So, yeah, because these are mammals, right, that are found in water, right? And so they eventually found their way onto land and then back into the sea, and we can see that in the
show me how the same species was doing that gradually. Yeah, without becoming another species entirely.
Yeah. Okay, so you want this in fact check?
Yes.
Okay, Okay.
Okay, we're going to go through this article together. How did whales evolve? From the Smithsonian Magazine. How did whales evolve? Okay, where in the part that I'm looking for this do I find a single species of whale gradually changing into another species of something?
So the whale is what we call it now, right?
I don't care. Call it what you want. Just give me the part of the article I should be looking over that is relevant.
I can't see your stream.
Just show me what I should be focusing on. The incriminating evidence.
Just read the article, friend.
I'm not reading the whole fucking thing. You show me what's relevant in this fucking article. What is the damning evidence I'm supposed to be looking for?
Okay.
Because all I'm seeing is different species and not one species gradually acquiring characteristics over time. I'm seeing one species change to another.
What do you mean by different species? Do
Do you know the whole point of this is that what I'm looking for is one species gradually changing to another?
Huxley thought that the Basilosaurus at least represented the type of animal that linked whales to their terrestrial ancestors.
But that's a different species, isn't it? So where is the gradual change responsible for speciation?
It's in the fossil record.
Dumbass.
Different pictures? Do you want pictures? Is that what you need? Do you need a picture book?
Can I ask you a question?
Are you at the age where you need
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Are you stupid? We could save time if you just admit you're stupid.
Here, I'll link you.
Are you
a
stupid?
Picture.
Are you stupid? Are you stupid?
Get a good picture.
Are you stupid? Are you stupid?
Here's a picture.
Are you stupid?
Can I not send a picture?
Okay. Chat, can you look at my chat right now? Everyone copy and paste Tanky125's message. Look at my chat right now. Please look at my chat.
I'm not looking at you, I don't care.
Everyone copy and paste Tanky125's message. Paste it in the chat. Look at my chat right now.
You can look at a picture. I gave you a picture.
Look at my chat right now.
No, I don't care about your chat.
Look at my chat right now.
No, I refuse to.
It's gonna be very simple because it's one sentence.
Yeah, I refuse to look at your chat. I don't look at chat while I talk.
I asked you for evidence of gradual change from one species to another, and you gave me evidence of species linking two different species. Which means the qualitative change between one species into another is not even addressed in this fucking so-called source you gave me, that you made me wait for.
Yeah, you can actually watch. You can watch the evolution of different parts of like bird wings, and you can watch the evolution of different
within the
parts
same
of
species. Within the same species. Within the same species.
Yes.
Give me an example of that. Because you fucked up on whales, and we're going to birds now. Okay, chat, stop. You fucked up on whales, so now we're going to birds. Give me an example of the birds.
I'll post you another picture because that's what you like.
No, I want an actual source. Because this is actually a debate about who's a dumb fuck and who's not.
Oh, no, you want pictures. You like.
By the way, when you lose this debate, it's not just you lost the debate. You lost your entire manhood. You lost your honor. You lost your dignity. You lost any face. Your mom will not look at you the same, and all of this. So you not taking this seriously doesn't bode well for you.
I don't take you seriously. Yeah.
Okay, because you're bluffing. Because if you do try and seriously argue what you're trying to argue, you're gonna get fucked. Right? So you're just going to say, actually, I was trolling the whole time.
No, I'm not trolling. I'm actually being very
serious. So be serious and give me your birds. Give me your birds.
I gave you more whales, and I also gave you birds.
Your whales are nothing, because your whales don't have anything to do with qualitative change of species.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't. You only described the missing link between two species, which was the missing link being another species. Where does one species gradually change to another? You haven't given me one example.
Yeah, I've linked like a bunch of stuff in your chat. So.
Okay, let's see what you've linked.
I can keep going.
Origin of whales. Okay. Now, listen. Look what he linked, guys. Look what he linked. Look at this picture, for example.
Yeah.
How many species are in this picture? How many species are in this picture?
They're all whales. Well,
how many species are in this picture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Between all of these different whales, we don't know anything. We just know they're different species.
No, we have the development, like we have changes.
Within one species to another, where's the change? Within one species to another, where's the gradual change?
Okay.
You know how much content I can just farm based on people being naturally dumbasses?
Here's this, which is the evolution of digits and the origin of the bird wing. Okay, so this is a very specific that I'm...
Good. I hope this is your fucking saving grace, because you're not doing well at all here. The evolution of digits and the origin of the bird wing. To understand how digits evolved... Okay, where am I going to find... So what is the one species we're dealing with here?
Well, so this is the evolution of digits, right? So it's a specific thing.
Is it is a digit a species you're talking about? What are you talking about?
No, so a digit, like pretty much everything has digits. Like there are digits in a whale fin, there are digits in a bird wing, there are digits in your hand. Right? Like your fingers are digits. So think of that, but like a bird wing.
Do you or do you not understand what I'm asking you for?
Yeah, I understand exactly
what am I asking for?
You're asking for gradual changes over time.
No, I'm not. What am I specifically asking for?
You're asking for proof of that evolution is gradual.
What am I specifically asking for?
Speciation.
What am I specific? Okay, there you go. Now try again. What am I asking for?
You're asking for small changes over time that lead to speciation.
Yes. 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 Finally. Can you give me one example of that?
I already did, yeah, the whales.
But the whales you showed me were all different species. That's the problem.
Just like dogs are different, right?
Dogs are the same species as wolves. You didn't show me a bunch of different subspecies, part of the same species. You showed me different species of whale. Can you give me one example of the process of speciation resulting from gradual changes over time? By the way, guys, this is your average Mendelian here, average Mendeloid here. By the way, this is what the genetics people, this is how they think, this is how they reason, by the way, for the chat.
I mean, that's exactly the way it works, right?
Give me one example.
What do you mean by that?
One example of evidence, because you said it's certain, of speciation being gradual.
And you understand that, like whales, like modern whales, there's a lot of subspecies, but whales are a large category.
No, because there are different species of whale. A whale is not a species. A whale is just a word we use to describe multiple different species.
The modern balena is a species, yeah.
The what?
The modern whale is a species.
No, it's not. No, it's not. There are multiple different species of whale. It's not one species. You just said something that's wrong. Are you going to take the L on that?
Yeah, no, there are different species of whale.
Okay, so what is... You just say wrong things.
There are categories, right? So there are large overarching categories.
Do you not know how taxonomy works? I thought you were a biologist. I thought you were a biologist. Do you not know how taxonomy works?
Yeah. Kingdom, phylum, order, genus, species.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
What do you mean?
I'm waiting for the evidence.
So I linked a whole bunch of stuff in your check.
Of what what did I ask you for? This is the SpongeBob thing of the guy showing Patrick the ID. Is this your ID? And then he just, it's a loop. It's a loop. Okay, what did I ask you for?
The same species changing.
Yes. Gradually over time.
And then becoming a different species,
yes,
right?
Gradually over time.
I need to show you different species, right?
You need to show me one species gradually changing until it finally speciates into another species.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So can you provide evidence for that?
Yeah, like I said, you can explore the different types of small changes that led from like dinosaurs all the way to whales.
Sure. Can you give me one example of one species undergoing gradual changes until it becomes a different species?
All these species that I linked to you can examine them closer and find like small little changes. I can't.
Can you give me one example of that? Just one.
Yeah, like I said, from here, from the modern, from this last photo that I showed you. Okay, this is a good example.
Here we go.
Right? Where the last photo that I linked in your phone. Great, that's a good photo. Where it goes from one species and you can see the different species, right? And if you look up the timeline between these species, you'll see fossils that gradually change between them as well, right? Now you can't look up the exact, because they don't have a name, right? For
what's the problem with this photo?
There's no problem with the photo.
Really? How many different species are in this photo?
Like I said, I'm gonna have to show you multiple species, right?
So this is not evidence. This is not the evidence I asked for, is it?
So between the first two, you can like, this is the thing. You can see the gradual change.
No, you can see a change between species, not within species.
You understand that some of these things are
the change between species appears gradual, but the change within the species is nowhere to be found.
No, we can see that.
You can't see it. How can you say that? But this doesn't even prove anything, by the way. It just proves that there's a structural similarity at hand. It doesn't actually prove anything. Like, if I was a creationist, I'd wipe the floor with you. It doesn't even prove evolution, let alone gradual change.
Okay. So, you know about Darwin's finches?
Okay. I'm going to ask you for the last time. What am I asking for?
You're asking for the same species that have differences. That lead to speciation eventually.
Yes.
Right.
Give me one example of that.
Okay, so Darwin's finches.
Okay, what about Darwin's finches?
Right, so they showed...
Give me the evidence too so we can read it.
Okay.
Okay, I looked up Darwin's... I'm saving time now because you're a time waster. I looked it up on Wikipedia. Okay.
Well, okay, if you want to go for that.
And I'm going to highlight the relevant thing for chat.
The fact that
Can you look on my screen?
I can't see your screen.
Okay. How many species of birds are encompassed by Darwin's finches?
So finch is one species.
Are you sure about that?
They're not 100%. There might be different species.
What percentage of certainty are you that it's one species?
I think that there might be multiple.
How certain are you of there being one?
I'm not very certain that there's only one. I would think.
But you said there's one, and then you said you're certain.
I never said I was certain. I said I don't think I'm very certain in there being just one.
Okay. And then I said, how certain are you in being one?
Yeah, I wouldn't bet money on it.
That's fine. What percentage?
You
said you're not 100. No. First you said. First you said you're not 100%. Then I asked you, okay, what percent then? And then you said, actually, I'm certain that there's multiple, not one. So did you change your mind?
I never said I was certain. I said,
what do you think? What do you think?
More likely that there are multiple.
What do you think?
I think that there are probably more than one.
Then why did you say it's one species?
Because at first I thought, yeah, okay, it's just species, and no, that's.
So wait, when I asked you for this example, when I asked I asked you for an example for what I was asking for, and you said Darwin's finches, would you say this is not a right example?
It is a right example.
Why?
Because the birds change over time. It's mostly about the beak shape. And they do eventually become different species because
okay.
Because I guess that's how
you said it's one species, which was the decisive thing for this being relevant to me, right?
Well, it started off as one species, right?
That's not relevant. There are 18 species of bird encompassed by Darwin's finches.
Yeah.
There is zero evidence of speciation.
That's not true.
What's the evidence?
What do you mean?
Okay, I am an Atari in my chat said, you're giving evidence for adaptive radiation, and adaptive radiation is actually an example of punctuated equilibrium, not gradual speciation.
That's not true at all. There are gradual changes that...
Okay, but I asked you for one, and this is not that.
What do you mean?
This is an example of adaptive radiation.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Do you know what adaptive radiation is?
No. You want to explain it to me?
Well, you said you know more about biology than me, so you should know it, right?
You seem to want to explain everything to me, so why don't you do it?
Okay.
Because you seem to think I'm...
When there is a sudden ecological change, there's a radiation of organisms, right, that adapt to different ecologies.
Right.
That's not a gradual change. That's a result of different environmental differences, proportionate to the change.
So all changes are going to be due to some sort of environmental...
No, but that's not a gradual process is the problem. It's a very sudden, punctuated process.
What do you mean it's not a gradual process? How is it not a gradual process?
Because it happens very suddenly on the evolutionary timescale.
Except... So what do you mean by sudden?
I mean sudden in the sense of punctuated equilibrium. That's what I mean.
But you're just pointing to any change in species, and you're saying that that's punctuated equilibrium and that that's a sudden change.
Because you're saying the change in species happens gradually over time, and I'm saying that's not true.
And it does, and you can.
But you have yet to give me one example of that, not one.
All evolution we've ever seen has been gradual.
Prove it.
I've already shown you multiple sources. You just claim that they're wrong.
Did they answer the question I asked you?
I have answered your question.
Ya Allah, what the fuck am I... This guy's so fucking stupid. He's more stupid than anyone I've ever talked to in my life.
I've already answered your question.
I asked you for one species changing to another. Thank you, Nitrando. I asked you for one species. I asked you for one species. I asked you for one species.
I showed you change into other species, right?
The finch.
Well, that and the, dinosaurs that changed into whales.
No. That was all of the examples you gave me can be proven by punctuated equilibrium.
That's not true. See, this is one of these...
Very slowly, my ears are ringing now. Shut the fuck up!
Every time we find
Shut the fuck up!
call it a new species.
I'm muting him. I'm muting him. I'm muting him. I cannot fuck. I'm muting this dumb fuck. He's muted. Y'all, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I've never experienced this level of stupid. I don't know what I'm gonna fucking do. I don't know what to say. This is actually driving me insane. I asked you for gradual space changes within one species leading to another species. All you have given me is apparently gradual changes between species. From A to B, how do you get there? From one species to another. Give me one example of gradual change within the species itself, leading to speciation. For the last time. Just one example. One.
Am I still muted?
You can talk. One example.
Okay, so the evolution from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens.
Is Homo erectus a different species than Homo sapien?
Yes.
So how did Homo erectus... So is there any species between erectus and sapien?
There's some people who
If there's one, you just ate a bucket of shit. If there's one.
There are other Homo species that existed at the same time, like Neanderthals.
If there's one species, which you're defining as a species, between erectus and sapien, you just ate shit.
I don't think there is.
There's none. There's none?
I think it's a direct link, erectus to sapien. Okay. I think, and then there are other branches, like erectus created Neanderthals and Denisovans.
Are Neanderthals a different species than Homo sapiens?
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They're literally not.
Homo neanderthalensis is different than Homo sapien.
It is not a different species.
Which is different than Homo denisovans.
It is not a different species. That's a completely fucking arbitrary differentiation. It's not a different species.
How do you define a species?
Species are typically defined based on breeding.
That's one way of doing it.
That's probably the most common way of doing it. And
so Neanderthalensis and sapiens are two different species.
No, there's a debate, and most people say it's a subspecies of archaic human. And the difference between archaic human and modern human is also arbitrary.
By archaic human, you mean Homo erectus. Because we also have other fossils that go prior to erectus, right?
Okay, so you're saying the change from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens was gradual.
Yeah, we can see Homo erectus changing.
So Homo erectus is slowly becoming... So Homo erectus is slowly becoming the modern human.
Homo erectus, that already happened.
Yeah. Right? So in the fossil record, you're witnessing Homo erectus slowly become modern human with no punctuated...
Right. And actually, even within Homo sapiens...
Can you focus on the point?
Yeah.
I don't care about this well, actually. Homo erectus is gradually becoming modern human.
Yes.
In the fossil record.
Yes.
Okay. First, I want two things from you. One, Homo erectus as a different species, not a subspecies of the same one. Second, I want you to prove what you just said.
Okay. So I'll prove first that Homo erectus is a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just link to you the Wikipedia article. Very simple. It just says Homo erectus is an extinct species of archaic. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not known if that's a that should be treated as a subspecies
it says an extinct species from the Pleistocene with the earliest occurrence about years ago. Its specimens are...
Thank you, Janar.
Hmm?
It's okay. It's not settled.
For Neanderthals, it's not exactly settled. But for Homo erectus, it is 100% settled.
Okay, I'll just give that to you. It's part of the same species.
Different species.
Yeah, sorry, it's a different species. Sure. So now link me the second thing. Prove that Homo erectus gradually changed into, I don't know what.
Okay. So gradual changes in Homo erectus.
And also, those differences are not punctuated environmentally by any geological changes?
What do you mean by that?
It's just a gradual change with no geological punctuations in between, right?
It's a gradual change over time.
Yeah, that's not based in geological change.
Not that we link it. No.
Okay. So please give me the evidence.
Okay. Homo erectus developmental trait. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. And I can show you a developmental train of Homo sapiens as well, by the way, where we haven't been the same.
No, that's not. That has nothing to do with speciation. I want specifically.
Well, yeah, right. So that's why I'm not pointing to that, right? So
I want specifically the process of speciation. Speciation.
The one I sent to you is about the change in erectus, and erectus eventually became Homo sapien.
Okay, go ahead and explain that.
Well, I linked the source that shows the trend in the differences in erectus, right? So over time,
is this the latest one?
What's that?
Is this the latest,
the latest one?
The latest Homo erectus developmental trends. So this does not look like a reputable website. This looks like a fucking schizophrenic website from 1997. Let's see. Over the lifetime of this species, brain size increases from about 850 cc in early specimens to 1200 cc about 500,000 years ago. The later within the lower range of modern human brain sizes. This growth means that the brain size means the larger brain individuals of this species get 50% brain size. Okay. I need to confirm that the differences in brain sizes were based on changes over time rather than reflecting arbitrary variation within the same species. In other words, they found skulls that were bigger at this period of time compared to before.
That is exactly what happened.
Yeah. But that doesn't prove that that wasn't just part of the regular variance of this species throughout the entire duration of its existence.
Gradually, the size of the skull.
No, but that's not proven necessarily. It could be part of the regular variance of skull sizes across time, and that
if it was regular variance, you wouldn't expect that it grows over time.
You don't know if it grew over time. Listen to what I said. If you find some at one date compared to a date before, that could be an arbitrary reflection of just finding it dated at this time, but it's still part of the normal variance of Homo erectus throughout all of the duration of its existence. So we don't know if there was a general change over time, because we don't even have enough fucking fossils to know about general.
We have more than one, so we can create averages, right?
You can't, because let's say, I'm going to fucking break this down for you. You have a stupid head. Let's say
I just showed you evidence.
Shut up!
And now you're doing it.
No, because I'm explaining to you how this is not even sufficient. If you find a small brain 1,000,000 years ago, and then you find a big brain 500,000 years ago, that doesn't mean and necessarily imply a general change. That could just mean that you found two brain sizes that are well within the variation within the same species at all times of its existence, but you just managed to find this brain at this time and that brain at that time.
Yeah, it just so happens that we find them in the perfect that it looks.
Well, I don't know. Like, if there's variation, like, do you find also small brains? How many, first of all, I need to know the sample size to know it's not arbitrary. Second of all, of fossil specimen.
How many Homo erectus samples have been found?
To justify the claim of the Homo erectus head size becoming bigger or smaller. So I'm going to look up Homo erectus head evolution. Yeah, like, I'm not finding this anywhere on
Homo
Google.
habilis, we have number of fossil
Hold on,
examples.
stop pivoting. Stop pivoting.
This is the evolutionary track of humans, but okay.
Well, we're focusing on Homo erectus and the so-called evidence you just gave to me.
Habilis came first, so we would have less. And then.
So you're saying that because we found fossils that look differently, that are dated to different periods, that this reflects a general change in the Homo erectus. I'm just denying that's true. I need more information to confirm that.
So then what evidence could I ever show you that would be enough? Because you've said that showing you different fossils of different...
Because it is so... I'll tell you, because you need an extraordinary amount of evidence.
There's a gradual change.
You need an extraordinary amount of evidence beyond the threshold of doubt, because in nature, we tend not to observe gradual changes within a species. So this would be an extraordinary piece of evidence.
And we see this change in brain size, not just but within the other species before and after.
Okay,
right?
but I'm talking about the process of speciation. Okay, here's the problem. Here's the problem. In the process of speciation, we existed alongside Homo erectus. You know that?
At a certain point. Until we outbred them, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's just a theory. You don't even know what...
No, they're all gone. We know that.
Yeah, we know they're gone. We don't know if it's because we outbred them.
That is exactly what happened.
Well, you don't know that. You actually don't know if that's the case. If that's the reason. There could be a lot of other reasons.
If you say so.
Okay. So, can you give me examples of gradual evolution within one species leading to another?
I just did.
Individual species... No, you didn't. Okay, we're going in here. Individual species of Homo erectus vary widely, but trends are visible over time. Okay, there's no sources for this, by the way. Homo habilis started to live on grasslands, which domesticated them to lead to Homo erectus. Then Homo erectus started to cook their foods, change them significantly. So it looks like this is not a gradual change going on. It looks like these are punctuated changes. Actually.
Punctuated by what?
By changes, for example, in the environment, and by changes...
But they became a different
The theory with Homo erectus is that cooking food apparently started to change something.
Right, so they became a different species eventually, right?
But I don't know if we can consider them a different species when we could still crossbreed with them.
Like I said, breeding isn't an exact...
No, it's the reason breeding is not an... Hold on. The reason breeding is not an exact indication of changes in speciation is because there's examples of things we would consider within the same species that can't breed. But that doesn't mean if you can breed, that's a pretty sure sign you're in the same species.
That's not necessarily true. Like lions and tigers have been bred and they're not in the
yes, that is true, but those tend to be exceptions and aberrations, not the rule. And as far as lions and tigers are concerned, yeah, I mean, defining species in general is tough, but when it comes to speciation, I mean, that does raise the question, are lions and tigers a different species? Why do we consider them a different species if they can breed? Like,
so this is what I'm saying, is that there's a debate in biology.
Wait. No, this is important. I didn't know this. Wait. Ligers are infertile, though, so they can't have offspring. So that's a pretty important thing, too.
Yeah, it's like mules, right? Where it's like a horse donkey and they can't have kids either.
Yeah, so that's important.
Uh-huh.
So that's important for defining whether something's a different species, is the generational reproduction.
Yeah, that would be another factor, right?
But we're talking with Homo erectus and humans... Is there reason to think that if they bred with one another, that there couldn't be generational breed? Would they become infertile? Well, we know that's not the case because we still have we still have Homo erectus DNA in us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There are people who have more or less erectus DNA, right? Which shows crossbreeding definitely happened. It's just like Neanderthal, which are also...
So I don't think it's fair to say Homo erectus was a different species.
But they're classified as a different species.
But the classification is arbitrary.
Mo Mission donated $3.
Yeah, that's
Thank you,
my
Mo
point.
Mission.
Look at Jackson's messages.
We don't
Yeah,
have
I have to explain this to you. There's a big difference.
Things get complicated.
There's a big difference. The process of speciation is the process in which something Jax, okay, give me a second. Something changes so... I'm meeting up with Jackson later tonight, so there's just...
Okay, cool.
I'm not talking to you right now. I'm talking to chat.
Well, fuck you.
There's a process of speciation, okay, where an organism changes so fundamentally that it can no longer crossbreed with another. Okay? Now, most of the speciations we find on the fossil record are punctuated by abrupt geological changes. Now, there's a degree of variance that the same species can enter into. Okay, Datus, thank you for the money, but I message is loud and clear, and I'll check it in a second, okay? I'll check it in a second, okay? There's a degree of variance within the same species, clearly that's possible. I mean, there's a degree of variance between modern humans. I look different from you. You're not as hairy as me.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we're not a part of a different species.
And like I said, I mean, even I could show you a different track the way that I showed you with Erectus here. I can show it to you with Sapiens to change.
Yeah, but the problem is that I'm still looking for an example of speciation.
Well, this is what speciation is. Like
I said, it's not, because it's not clear that Homo erectus is a part of a different species.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's just not. I reject that.
Okay, well, you can reject it, but now you're rejecting the...
Can you ask me what determines Homo erectus as being a part of a different species?
That's the way it's been classified.
Why?
Generally, a lot of it has to do not just ability to reproduce, but their perception of each other as viable mates. And eventually... What? Yeah, that also has to do with speciation. The way that different species perceive each other as potential mates.
It says here, according to Nature.com, that it's still debated about whether it is part of the same species.
What is?
Homo erectus.
So whether erectus is the same as sapiens?
Whether we're part of the same species or what we're dealing with is
so pretty much every species is debated, right? Like I said, there's two major classes of biologists. There's people who want to create broad categories that encompass things, like a lot of things in one name. And then there's people who want to create
the process of speciation, I've defined, right, as the process of breeding.
Okay, but that's not the way that it's defined.
How is it? Then you have to admit species are defined in a completely arbitrary way.
Species are, they're debated. It's not objective. Speciation is not objective.
Okay.
Speciation is a creation of categories. These categories that we create are pretty
arbitrary. Why didn't you just say that? Okay, then subspecies gradually changing over time is an example of what I'm talking about. Because what you're trying to drive at and get home at is that fundamental differences in organisms are the result of gradual changes.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no proof for that.
Except for the entire fossil record.
No, there's no proof for it, because the entire fossil record shows different species that can't breed with each other.
Chris Morlock donated $5.
Let me put it this way.
Jimmy Dore. Talk to Jackson.
It's probably too late for that, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Listen, the process is, what you're talking about, what you would have to be arguing is that The development of various subspecies eventually leads gradually to a completely new species. That's what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a link between a subspecies and a qualitatively new species?
So you're saying a subspecies becoming a new species?
Yes.
So the simple fact that there's a gray line between when Homo erectus becomes Homo sapien and whether or not they're the same species or not shows that fact.
What's the line?
That they could either be species or subspecies.
Where is the gray line? Where's the gray line where Homo erectus appears very similar to us?
That's exactly what I'm saying, right? Where along the fossil record does Homo erectus truly become Homo sapien, right? Where does Homo habilis truly become Homo erectus, right? Like we see gradual changes between these species. Eventually, we call them different species. We don't
Hold on.
necessarily
No. Wait. Here's the problem, though, right? Is that you already agreed that the way in which we're defining species here is arbitrary. Okay?
Yes.
So a subspecies leading to an entirely new, different species is the question.
So a species changing over time, becoming something that we eventually, right?
Not that we eventually call a different species, but it becomes a fundamentally different organism. For example, Homo erectus is not that. Homo erectus, we can breed with it. We can mate with
Homo
it.
habilis?
Okay, sure. Homo habilis.
Which is the one before erectus.
Yeah, I know. Can you give me an example of Homo habilis slowly becoming erectus, though? Because you can't. Is there gradualism when it comes to Homo habilis? Hold on, and also I want to bring this up while you're looking for that, because this is actually very important. Homo erectus, theories of punctuated change. This is behind a paywall, but we can read some of it. Few researchers have generally opposed the view that Homo erectus was the direct ancestor of later species, including Homo sapiens. Louis Leakey argued energetically that Homo erectus populations, particularly in Africa, overlap with the more advanced Homo sapiens and therefore cannot be ancestral to the latter. Some support for Leakey's point of view has come from analysis of anatomic characteristics exhibited by fossils. This is the wrong one. Hold on. There's a specific view that the fossil record could be interpreted differently about the emergence of Homo sapiens. Okay, here's from Punctuated Equilibrium. It also predicts that while intermediaries will be rare in the evolution of single species, they will be seen among larger groups. Forget what Australopithecus is the precursor to modern humans. There are no fossils showing a gradual change in cranial capacity or body size of the Australopithecus. So this is what we're looking for.
However, Australopithecus is the one before habilis.
I know. However, there are other species such as habilis and erectus that show a transition from Australopithecus to... Okay, so the idea is that intermediaries will be rare in the evolution of a single species. So this is predicted by punctuated equilibrium already. So the basic idea here is that the bridge between modern man and Australopithecus is already through other species, habilis and erectus. But within Australopithecus, we see no gradual changes.
Because we don't have a lot of them. That's such a...
And this also calls into question whether we can observe gradual changes in Erectus. The one you linked is a very shoddy source. There was no citations. It was like a 1997 schizophrenic website. So
I sent you the habilis one.
Gradual changes within habilis? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, cranial size changes, that kind of thing within habilis.
Sure. Where can I find that?
I put it in the fact check. It's the latest one.
Yeah. Where in the article?
So you got to go past the... So you just go into the fossil.
The what?
There's a section of the article called the fossil. So you can even click on it on the...
Called the fossil evidence. Okay.
Yeah.
And what am I looking for specifically?
So right here, it'll talk to you about like the different jaw size, cranial size.
Discovery of Homo habilis fossils. And there's only a few here, apparently. So this is a low sample size. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about things that are millions of years old.
Okay, and where do we see the evolution of the fossils?
So over time, we see that the different fossils that we found have different, like, cranial size, right? There's a gradual...
Yeah, there's a change, but is there a general trend of, like, bigger or smaller, or is just variance?
No, it gradually gets bigger over time.
Where do we find that?
Well, these are the species that we've found, right?
Where in this article do I find that?
Like, do you want the CC changes or what?
Just where in the article do they talk about over time?
Find you.
I'm not finding anything here that's dating the different species. Sorry, the different fossils, indicating a general trend.
I'll have to find something. Get a chart.
Is it not in this thing you linked?
Should have been.
Well, it's not.
There are the different fossils are there, but
no one's denying different fossils are found. But
you see that when they're found,
do the different fossils exhibit a general trend of change over time?
To the shape.
Okay, while you look for yours, I'm going to continue looking for mine.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here's actually it's on Google Books. It's hard to find. Okay, let's look at this.
Sure.
A graduated transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens is one interpretation of the fossil record, but the evidence can also be read differently. Many researchers have come to accept what can be termed punctuated view of human evolution. This view suggests that species such as Homo erectus may have exhibited little or no morphological change over large periods of time, evolutionary stasis, and that the transition from one species to a descendant form may have occurred relatively rapidly and in a restricted geographic area rather than on a worldwide basis. Whether any Homo species, including our own, evolved gradually or rapidly hasn't been settled.
Okay.
So no, you haven't given me any fucking evidence. Your original one about Homo erectus is probably bullshit.
Gradual shit, right?
Where's the gradualism? You haven't given me anything. Give me one thing.
I just pulled up another.
Okay, we'll look at the other one.
Okay, this is the Smithsonian Natural History.
Okay, let's look at it.
And there's a chart in here that you can look at that goes over the millions of years and the brain size.
Can you tell me what I'm looking at right now? Because first there's a picture of Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. I need gradualism within one species.
Yeah, so just go down, go to the chart that's there. There's why the sudden increase in brain size. And you can see it over time, right?
There are no distinct... what am I looking at? Within what species? Graduation changes climate and changes in brain volume. Climate punctuation and brain volume. Are these punctuated by different species?
So so every dot is a different, a different specimen that we've found.
So they're different species.
There are 2 different species there, yeah. So it's the habilis and erectus. And I think there might be...
Okay, you need to understand something. What researchers are saying and arguing is that Homo erectus experienced, throughout the entire duration of its existence as a species, evolutionary stasis.
That Homo sapien did?
Homo erectus did. Evolutionary stasis where it did not exhibit morphological changes over time. And that the changes were punctuated. Okay? So this does not tell me... I don't know what I'm looking at.
Well, these
human brain size evolved rapidly. What human species is this referring to? Okay, because what species is this talking about? So from the picture here, it's pretty clear to me that they're referring to different species, not gradual changes within one species.
So the starting point, would have been habilis and then erectus, and then at the end but you can see that it's gradual.
Where does it say that?
This is what the article's about, right? You can link.
Where in the article does it say that? I don't see. Okay, I'm gonna type habilis in this article. Habilis. There's no habilis in this article. You're talking out of your fucking ass, aren't you? You're talking out of your ass. That's all you're doing is talking out of your ass. This article does not describe gradual changes within one species. It describes changes in brain case volume across species. And here, there's, it comes to a point where over time there's enough variance where there's no general trend of an increase or decrease.
Gradual, right?
No, because they're different species. Holy shit. They're different species, so it's not gradual. Listen, I'm going to explain to you the logic behind this. There is one source you gave me, which actually would potentially confirm your theory, and it's this one. The problem with this one is that it doesn't have any sources, and it's from a 1995 schizophrenic website. I don't know what scientists think about this or what the consensus is on this or what I should fucking make of this, but this would be about the only piece of evidence you've provided me that would support the view of morphological changes gradually happening over time within one species that lead to the speciation of Homo sapiens.
Okay.
And there'd also be holes in that, because even if the claims of that article were true, that brain sizes were increasing or decreasing, that actually doesn't indicate whether that exhibits the traits of speciation into Homo sapiens. So the process of speciation is still mysterious. How human beings exactly came to come from Homo erectus, there's no gray area as you claim. There's a very hard black and white area. There are no intermediate. It's not like
time in history when that change happened.
Yeah, but we don't, on the fossil record, it's not a gray area. We can very distinctly say, this is modern human, this is Homo erectus.
We can't. That's why there's a debate about it.
Yes, we can. We can do that.
No, that's why there's a debate about it.
There's not a debate about because of that, because it's clearly a very distinct. It's not like you find fossils that say, "Oh, this is a half Homo erectus, maybe modern human." We don't find that.
So it's a little bit more.
Yeah, there's crossbreeding, but I'm trying to say is that there's still distinct populations. You don't find on the fossil record people saying, "Oh, this is Homo erectus," and its later stages slowly changing into modern man. You don't find that. The brain size increase would be one potential trait that morphs into modern man, but is that accompanied by all the other traits that distinguish modern man from Homo erectus? We don't know. We don't have enough anything from that source you gave us.
So all these traits can be tracked.
But you're not tracking them for me. You're not giving me anything that indicates any tracking.
Oh, you want me to show you my dick?
So you take the L on this debate?
You want me to show you my dick?
You gave me one. You provided me with a whopping total of one source throughout this whole fucking thing.
Sure. Yeah, you can think that.
Which actually did resolve to give me what I was asking for.
Yeah.
Except this was a dog shit source is the problem. This is a dog shit source, and even if we accepted this source, it does not prove what you were supposed to prove.
Yeah, so that's your claim. That's fine.
Can you argue with me about it?
So there's other things within Homo erectus that changed over time, right? This is what I'm saying. Brain size isn't the only other gradual.
What are the other things that gradually change over time? And can you give me a source?
Yeah, here, I'll find you a source. I think there's something about dental development. The way that our teeth started forming differently.
Okay, Homo erectus' teeth started forming. Give me the evidence.
Yeah. So, humans differ from other primates. Growth. Oh, shit, this one's behind a fucking paywall. It's a paywall. I'll have to find you some. Okay.
Still waiting.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I get you what you. Trying to find this other one was like a growth.
Can you hurry it up? It sounds like if this is a lot harder to find if you were right.
I've already found multiple sources. They're just behind page because it's like university shit. Okay, I'll link you the first one I found, which is. It looked really. Okay. Okay. check. The right one? Did I send you the right link? One sec. The brain. Still good, but
this is about
the brain.
This is about fetal fucking brain development from a child to adulthood. It has nothing to do with morphological changes over time. The time scale is a fucking a child to an adult. Are you stupid? Are you fucking dumb?
So it's the development, right? From becoming
a child to an adult. That's not a fucking morphological change within a species over time. That's a child growing into an adult.
No. So they're saying that within the same species over time, the time that it took for it to become an adult changed.
Okay, where?
So over time, within...
There's an abstract here, and it's behind a paywall. Can you explain where it makes this claim? Okay. Humans differ from other primates in their significantly lengthened growth period. The persistence of a fetal pattern of brain growth after birth is another important feature of human development. Here we present the result of an 1.8 million-year-old child, the only well-preserved skull of a Homo erectus infant by computed tomography. Firstly, it couldn't possibly do what you're saying because there is actually only one fossil record of the preserved skull of a Homo erectus infant. If it was doing what you purported it would find the skull of another Homo erectus infant at another period of time and claim this is an example of morphological change within the species. Comparison with a large series of extant humans and chimpanzees indicates that this individual is about 1 year and has the endocranial capacity of 72 to 84% of an average adult Homo erectus. So it doesn't prove what you just wasted my time again. So I'm going to do something for you, Chance. Give me one more source, your last chance to redeem yourself, to prove what you set out to. Just one. This is your last chance. The last chance I'm giving you before you're done.
I've already provided you multiple sources.
So you concede the debate. You have nothing.
No, I claim victory above.
Okay. Who's going to decide who wins and who lost?
Yeah, exactly.
Chat, right?
It's not your chat.
Why not?
I'm not going to listen to what your chat has.
So what will you listen to?
They're not an unbiased judge.
But you can't even consistently maintain a train of thought without conceding to me. You have no line of argumentation I haven't shattered. You have nothing. I fucking destroyed you.
You have nothing.
Really?
You've shown me no evidence.
I don't have to show you shit. You're the one who's trying to prove to me gradualism when the consensus is that the change was punctuated.
That's not the consensus.
Really?
Yeah, that's just one theory.
Okay, but the truth is that Homo erectus was characterized by a period of evolutionary stasis.
That's one theory.
No, it's not. It was.
No.
Okay, what's forms of evidence to the contrary?
The fact that there were gradual changes in the species over time, over millions of years.
Proven by what?
Proven by the fact that their cranial
Give
capacity.
me one source. The source you gave me that's talking about cranial capacity is not proven. It's not sourced. It's a source that's not sourced. You gave me one, yes, but that is from a schizophrenic 1995 website that can't be fucking sourced anywhere, and I've never seen that claim reproduced anywhere else.
Okay.
So you lost, right?
I'm linking it now.
Okay, this is your final. This is the last chance. This is the last chance I'm giving you.
Okay, well, this is about the same thing that I linked to you, the source that you don't like. The information you liked, but the source. So this is from Nature. This should be
Okay, we'll check it out.
Okay, so this
a
is
new set of fossils began to appear.
The same information that I gave to you in that other, right?
Sure. So 2 million years ago, a new set of fossils began to appear in the human fossil record, Homo erectus. They show evidence of increases in both body size and brain size. Okay, we'll check it out. Okay, so this is the source from Nature. So these are the fossils, and these are how they're dated. They're found all over here. Increases in body size. One of the traits commonly associated with Homo erectus is an increase in body size. So they're talking about Homo erectus relative to the species that came before it, not within Homo erectus.
No, it's over time. There's an increase in body size.
Where?
Well, because this is over the period of time that Homo...
Yeah, right? But so where does it say that? Okay, increase in hominins increases.
Like if you look at this table here, it's key Homo erectus fossil.
Yeah, I know, but look at the table. Where do they talk about an increase in size at all? They don't. The table doesn't describe an increase in size. I'm looking for here. The smallest bodied early Homo erectus fossils have a brain size only slightly larger than earlier hominins. Early large bodied, so there's a variance of large bodied and small bodied in the early period. So there's variance. There's no fucking general trend of change.
No, but you can look at averages, right? Like, I mean,
where do you find averages here, though? You said this is the source that backs it up, so where?
Like, look at the fact that Homo sapiens are now taller on average than...
Dumbass. You said you gave me a source that describes gradualism of brain sizes for Homo erectus that backs up that original. It doesn't back up anything. It's talking about relative to the species before.
You can scroll down to increased brain size.
Sure. That's not nowhere to be found. Oh, okay, right here. That's what I'm already looking at, though. I already looked at increased brain size. I'm literally on it right now. Okay, wait. Maybe this might back you up. Throughout the evolutionary history of Homo erectus, there is substantial evidence for selection leading towards increased. This means brain size. So that while early members of the lineage had a cranial capacity of 6... Okay, this is what would help you. 600 to 800. The cranial capacities of most later specimens are well in excess of 1,000, which is within the lower range of contemporary humans, without appearing considerably larger in body size than earlier Homo erectus. Okay, so this would back up what you said originally. The original source. Okay, so that does source it. That does source the original source's claim that earlier... in its evolutionary history, Homo erectus had a cranial capacity of 600 800, and later specimens are to be found with 1,000. The problem is that the sample sizes are too small to describe a general trend. Second of all, we don't know what the relationship between the increased cranial capacities of Homo erectus and speciation into Homo sapiens is. Is this part of the speciation into Homo sapiens? We don't know.
Well, behavioral things were one of the main reasons we couldn't because, like, we could crossbreed, right? There was breeding, but we had
listen. Behaviorally, it can be speculated that the transition from Homo erectus to modern human. But what we do know is that on the fossil record, it's an abrupt change from Homo erectus to modern man.
But there are gradual changes, right?
There are gradual changes. But the DNA, listen, there's gradual... Listen, there are gradual changes that... Listen, there's a gradual change that appears, which was confirmed by this, of a cranial increase, right?
Right.
But there is no evidence that cranial increase is an indication of speciation into Homo sapiens.
So what was one of the things that created the speciation? If you remember when you were looking
we don't know. All we know
food was a big thing.
We don't know. All we know is that the change was abrupt. according to the fossil record.
You do remember that there was an abrupt correlation with the cooked food, right? You read that. That was a study that you pulled up.
I heard it somewhere. I can't back it up.
Right. So that's generally thought to be true, that our brains started growing with cooked foods, right?
Yeah, but the problem is
technological.
Okay, sure, but the problem is speciation, which is modern man, is an abrupt change from Homo erectus, not a gradual one.
But no,
now it's true that we do have bigger brain sizes compared to the original Homo erectus.
Smaller post canine.
But that's one trait. Okay, reduced post canine. Let's see. The change of ecology associated with Homo erectus corresponding to the change, a definition of jaws of the species. Again, is it talking about the evolutionary history of Homo erectus or Homo erectus compared to before?
So it'll talk about...
It's actually not talking about the evolutionary history of Homo erectus here or here. It's only talking about that here.
So Homo erectus engaged in a diverse and broad diet. The food and organisms ingested.
Yes, it doesn't say in the earlier parts of Homo erectus's existence it ate this, and then the later part it ate this. It's not saying that.
That's true. It doesn't say that.
Right. So it's not non-relevant evidence. It's not relevant.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
So you've given me nothing.
Well, I've given you the increased brain size, which led to technological advances.
Right. No. Wait. Hold on. The problem is, and this is kind of weird. Now, I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, but it does not appear to me that within the evolutionary history of Homo erectus, there's an increased technological level. It appears there's a kind of stasis there. And if that's true, that kind of incriminates the evidence of increased cranial capacities as not indicating a greater trend.
No, over the millions of years, like their technological ability.
I don't know if that's true. It doesn't say that in this. Hold on. While the earliest Homo erectus specimens are found in association with very basic stone tools, by 1.5 million years ago, populations of Homo erectus were creating a more complex and typologically codified set of tools. Okay, yeah, I'll grant that.
Okay.
So that does indicate that.
Yeah. So there's some evidence.
What is this guy saying on Twitter? Okay, let me be clear though, is that hold on. Okay. Let me be clear, though, that this doesn't tell us about what led to speciation. And furthermore, I'll tell you why it's difficult with humans in general, right? Because this is a historical process of increased technological whatever. You don't see that with any other species except man. You don't see, like, for example, the past 100 years of humans, we've changed technologically. You don't see that with any other man. So man is defined by creating its own environment through labor, right? So, at what point hominids began to endanger their own evolution and change is an open question.
Well, we have signs that even apes do that.
Yeah, but apes do it in a period of stasis. There's no, like, increase over time we can observe of ape tools being more complex than before within the same species, comparable to Homo erectus.
No, I would grant you that, yeah.
So here, it's not really, it's still, again, the problem is still the fact that the process of speciation is abrupt.
It's a complex one, right? It could have had to do with multiple.
Well, we just know the process of speciation was abrupt. Furthermore, I wonder how many of these changes with Homo erectus were punctuated by ecological changes and geological changes, I mean.
Well, it's like how Neanderthals are sort of different, right? They have different brow ridge, they have a larger jaw, they have a smaller cranial capacity. They're seen as less evolved than Homo sapiens, and that's kind of why we wiped them out. But
that's a theory that's not supported by.
Well, there are no Neanderthals around, other than the fact that
that doesn't justify jumping to fucking these grand speculations about why it happened. You don't know why that happened.
Species outcompete each other. That's generally
well. That's just the fucking ideological narrative you're pulling out of your fucking ass. We don't know why Neanderthals are no longer here. You can assume what you think is the most likely conclusion based on what you find to fit your ideology, but the truth is that we don't know.
What do you think is the limiting factor? Food is generally the large limiting factor.
I think it may very well be possible that Neanderthals never did go extinct.
They are extinct.
Well, I think that what we know about archaic humans and their relationship to modern humans is very difficult. It's very possible that Neanderthals intermixed with us to such an extent that as a distinct group, they ceased to exist. It's also possible that they were geographically united somehow, and that the geographic or geological event.
They were mostly Northern European, and then Denisovans were more Asian.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. You can't jump to these speculative theories. They're not scientific. These are not.
Well, these are where we
theories.
found the fossils, right? So this is what we consider.
Okay, but you're speculating about theories about how we outcompeted them or some shit, and this is just completely unscientific speculation.
That's accepted science about how species get rid of each other.
No, that's not how it works. Species don't get rid of each other.
Well, they outcompete each other for food and reproductive.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Competition is mostly intraspecific. Interspecies competition is basically like non-existent.
You think species don't compete for food? Like
no, because for multiple species to exist in the same place, unless there's some kind of fluke, like you just threw a tiger in a cage with like a monkey that never shared an ecology before, yeah, they'll compete and one will die or whatever. But when it comes to nature, by the time species have shared the same ecology, they have coexisted for a very long time, which means they're not actually really competing with each other to outbreed each other or to destroy one another. Now, when it comes to within species, you are going to see an intense level of competition because it's not actually decided yet, like who's going to survive within the species. It's not known, right? Or it's not established.
Well,
but
that has to do with reproductive capability, right? Like if
species don't outbreed each other. Like members of species outbreed each other, but as a
for example,
you don't know what you're talking. It's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid.
So we can outcompete them for reproductive change.
That's not how it works.
That is how it works.
No, it's not.
Okay, well I mean, you can say that all you want, but
that's a fucking stupid fucking middle school view of fucking biology. That's fucking stupid.
I mean, yeah, you can say that, but I mean, doesn't say class.
That's fucking Darwinian cope dumbass shit. Everything is competing with each other. No, that's not really how it works.
That is kind of how it works.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Different species don't really compete with each other.
Survival of the fittest, my friend.
Yeah, the thing is that survival of the fittest is literally a fucking form of circular reasoning.
How's that?
Because you're literally saying survival to the... It's Aristotelian metaphysics, the survival to the one who can survive the most. It's just fucking Aristotelian metaphysics. It's all it fucking is.
Do you know what fittest means?
What survival of the fittest means is survival of that being that can survive the bestest. Yes, that's a fucking tautology.
Fittest means reproductive fitness.
Which is about survival, yes.
So your capacity to reproduce
that's how survival is defined. And that's what survival is defined as, you fucking dumbass.
And that's why Neanderthals didn't survive, because they couldn't breed better than we could. We outbred them.
Again, that's a thought that has no causal value whatsoever in explaining why Neanderthals aren't to be found anymore. Because if a fucking meteor came and wiped out all Neanderthals for whatever reason, yes, they can't breed anymore. But is their inability to breed a causal reason for them no longer existing, or do they no longer exist because the meteor fucking wiped them out? You would say the latter, not the former. The former implies there was something wrong with the Neanderthal dick.
Well, that he wasn't as good at what we needed to do in that environment, right? So he had a smaller cranial capacity.
You're saying we outbred them because we fought for them with resources for them or some shit. It's fucking not true.
So we were more successful, and then we got more chances to breed.
No.
That's exactly how it went.
No, it's successful. That's completely fucking bullshit. More successful how? Because a meteor didn't happen to strike us? That's a stupid fucking way of looking at it.
We were better at...
no, we weren't. We weren't necessarily better at anything. There's room for contingency and randomness in this process. It doesn't fucking mean we're better at anything. What you're saying is stupid. If you're on a raft... and there's two people on a raft, and a shark just happens to eat the other raft, and you're the one remaining, it doesn't mean you're better at anything. That's why you have a very unscientific view of how this works.
I'm on a raft, and I know how to make a fishing rod, and you're trying to grab...
Yeah, but you have to prove that's the reason you survived. Sometimes a shark just comes and kills the other guy. It doesn't mean you're better. It just means you're lucky. It just means you're lucky. It doesn't mean you're better.
There was no mass extinction event with Neanderthals.
We don't know what led to the end of Neanderthals. They had a larger cranial capacity than us. There's no reason to think we were better than them in any kind of way.
They had a smaller DC. Like they couldn't have a large, like their brain was...
What?
They had a larger skull, but their brain was...
No. Actually, brain size... There's a certain level where brain size doesn't even fucking matter because it's based on insulation of cold and not based on, like, anything relating to so-called intelligence. So, no.
Brain size doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, brain size matters at a larger scale, but at a smaller scale, there gets to a point where it doesn't matter. Like, the small differences... The small differences of brain size within a species... or subspecies tend not to matter when it's based on the insulation of cold.
Yeah, within two humans, right? Like the one who has a big brain is necessary, unless it's by like a massive degree.
Yeah, it's speculated that the reasons for Neanderthals becoming extinct was environmental. We still don't know what happened to Neanderthals. They could have just mixed with us to such an extent that they no longer were distinct.
There's also like factors about, you know, their ability to get resources in...
That's, again, I'm sick of your fucking Minecraft view of history. It's fucking annoying.
Think about it this way, right? Like, they were adapted to different climates, and eventually the climate changed so that we were more... Like, that's...
Yeah, but that's extremely improbable, because both humans and Neanderthals were people that migrated and moved around a lot. The distinction you're playing with the distinction between man and animal here, which is very difficult.
They're all the same. Man is an animal.
That's not true.
Man is
not a fucking animal.
Man is nothing but an animal.
Man is not a fucking animal.
Yes, they are.
Can you give me a list of animals that say they are animals?
What's that?
Give me a list of animals that express
I don't know. I don't
idea that they are animals.
Do you speak a lot of other animal languages?
When has an animal ever expressed any sort of... When is an... Okay, can you give me proof of an animal being able to make the concept of animal intelligible in any kind of way? Shut the fuck up. Is there any type of behavior exhibited by an animal that expresses an animal's ability to make the concept of animality intelligible?
What do you mean by the concept of animality?
The general concept of an animal. Can any animal make that intelligible? Because a dog, for example, is going to bark and go crazy over a fucking toy dinosaur. I've seen it with my fucking bare. I've seen it with my own fucking 2 eyes. Right. So they can't even really distinguish an animal, even sensibly, from a fucking animate object, oftentimes.
I mean, give it enough time, it'll be able to tell if it's alive or not.
No. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've given it plenty of time, too.
You think dogs can't tell what's alive?
Dogs, even if they could, based on, like, hearing their heartbeat and shit, they still have no concept of what an animal is.
Well, I mean, they would understand it differently than we would. They wouldn't.
They wouldn't understand it at all, because understanding is a mental process by the intellect that has to do with conceptual reasoning.
You don't know what's going on inside an animal.
You don't, but there's no reason to think they could have that ability. There's no reason to think that. Do you know what's going on inside of a rock?
Do I know what's going on inside of your head, Oz?
Do you know what's going inside of a rock?
No, I don't.
Well, a rock is thinking. You just don't know it.
That could be true.
Okay, anything else?
Like, that could be true. You don't have evidence against that. It's not likely.
Look at this fucking sophistry. Look at this total fucking sophistry. Do you have anything else? Why would we ever entertain the idea of a rock having mental thoughts? All we know is that the only beings we know of who can even say we are an animal are humans, which is no other animal can do. So that I think that alone gives rise to a distinction between man and animal. Anything else?
I don't think so. We're just animals.
Okay, that's your cope. Anything else?
Humans are nothing but animals.
Okay, what animals have history? What animals have history? Do any animals have history?
All animals have history.
Sure. What's the history of dogs? Or sorry, dogs are related to humans. They don't have history. What's the history of a tortoise? Do you know what history is, by the way? History is a process of political change, economic change. Yeah, how does that happen with tortoises?
I don't know about the history of
Is there like a tortoise Roman Empire?
There might be.
Do you think that it would be reasonable to like even entertain the idea of tortoises having an equivalent to the Roman Empire or to a religion or anything like that?
I don't know. Bees dance to communicate with each other. That's pretty cool.
Do bees have history? Or do bees do the same shit they've always fucking done because they're bees?
That's not what you mean by history. Bees are definitely different.
They do the same shit they've always done based on the constitution of their organism. They're
different.
No, okay, how are they different across time? How are bees exhibiting historical changes?
Bees weren't even always bees.
What?
At one point, bees didn't exist. There's a time in history when bees didn't exist.
That's not what I was asking.
That's part of their history.
No, it's not, because they didn't exist. They only have history when they start to exist. So where's their history?
That's their history.
Where are the bee Roman empires? Where are the bee Jesus Christ? Is there a bee Jesus Christ?
I don't know. Maybe.
So what history have bees always done the same thing that bees have always done for as long as bees have existed?
I don't. Depends. Depends on what you mean. Different species of bees do different things.
Is that what I'm asking?
Well, so I would assume that over time, in the fossil record, bees have changed.
I'm asking you if bees have history. Do they have history or do they do the same shit?
Right? Change over time is history.
No, it's not. Because bees are completely determined by their organism and by their environment.
So are humans.
No, they're not. Because in any given 5,000 fucking years we can have recorded, there are profound differences in our behavior, in our culture, in our history, in our politics, in our structure, the structure of our society, and we don't change physiologically.
You ever have a pet?
You're not only getting disconnected, you're getting banned from my server. Get the fuck out of here. You took the biggest fucking L of your life. Get the fuck out of my face.
Great personality.
I've never talked to anyone more stupid than that in my fucking life. Okay.